chuckling along on my way to work. Yeah, I think I would do that. I wouldn't yell at you as much.
Okay, so what's the alarm clock thing?
All right, so before we ever get into the sports, I hate, first of all, I hate alarm clocks. I hate the sound of them. I hate when they're used in commercials. You know when they use them in commercials? It's the worst. It's a guarantee that I won't listen to the rest of the commercial, and I'm done with it. As soon as you start a commercial that way, there's no chance I'm listening to you. That's just, it's unnecessary, especially in today's day and age where they've come up with the more, kind of ease you into the day sort of alarm clocks that exist now. The slow build, like they have on the iPhone. You ever use that? If you set, we pull this up.
It's like a little pulse. And
and then it slowly kind of gets you going there for the day. You don't have to have such an obnoxious freaking, it's called bedtime, Tom. I use this thing. It's called bedtime. And if you turn it on, you can set it for when you want your phone to turn, dim. And then in the morning when the alarm goes off, the different wake-up sounds. It's very, very, it's just nice and appeasing. But it gets you up. But you're not jumping out of bed freaking out. It's not such a, we're on fire.
I'm used to that way. My iPhone,
I can't do
it does the Russian, missile silo noise, like the one that's in GoldenEye, the video game.
Yes.
My sister Katie, growing up, had the worst one, and she was such a heavy sleeper that
I'll break them. I've broken them.
It was a cow, it's cool.
That's
it's
kind
of
cool. It's a cow,
but it plays. Forgive me, Pamplona. So it plays like the Matador music.
Right.
Dun, 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 as louder than you think is an alarm clock can play it. But then when you hit it, it moos, and it's the loudest moo in the world.
I just want it to moo to start the day. Just give me a good solid moo.
Well, the moo can
almost like you're a rooster, only you're a cow, and you're happy the sun's come up, and we're going with a little moo. Like, hey, all right, guys, it's time to eat some grass.
The thing about the moo is it builds up, so it's kind of like the iPhone theory.
That's right. That's just, you're like, oh, the cow's mooing, and if I don't get up, he's going to moo even louder. We asked a question yesterday as we were kind of ending the show, and the question was that, but, Tom, we probably should have paid attention to the fact that Jimbo is not worried about that currently because he's running a camp. That's what he's doing. He's not sitting around thinking about how Francois is going to respond to certain blitz packages. He's thinking about how to teach these kids and get them to commit to Florida State University.
Maybe. I think he's longing for that while he's having to shake hands and, deal with 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds and whatever handlers they may have that are here at the camps.
I'm telling you, not the job that I would want. I used to pine to be a college football coach or a coach in general. I used to think that it was going to be my future endeavor, right? That's what I wanted to do when I stopped playing football. I thought someday I'll actually just coach football because, I like kids. So I like being around kids and helping them in any way possible. And watching their growth is rewarding, right? When you see a kid come in as a freshman and, maybe he's I'm talking about high school sports. And he's awkward and nervous, and then he blossoms over time, and he gains confidence and eventually gets stronger, bigger, faster, all that. To watch that is rewarding. I like to see that and be a part of it in any way. So I thought, man, one day I'm going to be a coach. And now coaches' salaries are out of control. Like if you want to be rich, you got to be good and willing to work nonstop. But if you stay in the coaching profession, even now as an assistant, if you're good and you work hard, you can make a lot of money. And back when I used to think about it, that wasn't true. I mean, the head coach would make $100,000, maybe $200,000. Assistants didn't have guaranteed multi-year deals. If you got a deal, you might get $60,000, $70,000, maybe. You'd work really hard, and there was no guarantee you were coming back next year. That's all changed. Now the money's crazy, and I wouldn't do it. If you gave me that $5 to $6 million per, I wouldn't do it. There's no way, because you do so many things that don't involve the stuff that I talked about liking growing up and wanting to be a part of.
Okay, what if you were a consultant or a video coach, the way that they have the support staffs now? It's a thankless job, and and
they make good money too.
It's in the muck, it's in the weeds, but I mean, you're actually in a room breaking down film and generating reports for the coaching staff all day long.
Yeah. Now, listen, that would appeal to our love of strategy, our love of the X's and O's of football. That is awfully fun to watch play out and to match wits and to do all of those things. That is rewarding. I do think it would get old. I do think if you were in a dark room all damn day looking at film, that while at first it would be appealing, you'd enjoy that. I think after a couple of years of that, that might get old.
Maybe we should ask our friend Luke Laux in a couple of years because he's a video coach for the champion Golden State Warriors.
Oddly enough that you bring that up, the timing's interesting today regarding former Noles and people that I've talked to. I think we're going to have Luke Laux on the show. Not this afternoon, but perhaps later this week, in fact. Luke Laux has always been each other on Instagram or what have you, and so I'm aware of his position there with Golden State, and I'd love to have him on and talk about that.
You might think we devised that segue, but we did not. We did not discuss the fact that Luke Laux might be coming on later this week, so that was just happenstance.
And it was funny that you brought it up because I thought, wow, did I mention that? No, I didn't mention that. You know what else I didn't mention? And this is going to happen. I believe we have confirmation from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that it will happen tomorrow, in fact, but I have Jameis Winston on the program.
We're talking about Jameis Winston.
Yeah, so see, even in the deadest of times, we reach out, figure some things, and move forward. But yeah, we'll have Jameis on. He's going to be in town real soon. They've got a camp coming up that he's a part of, and obviously he'll be the biggest star there, but it's not necessarily his camp. Several Florida State players former Florida State players are participating in this camp over at FSU for the youngins. And Jameis is dedicated to the youth, as we've seen in his time in Tampa, and he's also done a great job being an ambassador for the game and the university. So it'll be good to have Jameis Winston come back, and we'll have a chance to talk with him. That's all working out now. I've been in contact with the director of communications of the Bucs, and we think we've got a time for me to talk with him tomorrow. I'll have to record that interview because Jameis is busy and he has very small windows to work in interviews like this, but he's willing to do it. And so we're going to talk to him, and it should be good. I look forward to it. I'm excited. He's got to be – I mean, if I were him, these are fun interviews to do these days because you got something very real happening in Tampa that obviously he's the central figure of, but look around. He's got weapons. Expectations aren't there just because he's really good and he's going to make a bad team better, but rather they have a chance to be really good.
Yeah, they do. With the weapons that they have, I was going back and forth thinking to myself, because it really is the dead time, isn't it? And these last couple of days I've been thinking about the football game.
Well, you're trying to get to that baseball game Saturday night. You're just, and how much can you talk about Golden State's dominance? I mean, what are we doing here? I'm not going to get into LeBron's legacy.
Man, every day I bring it up. We should mention it at some point. I'm not going to get into
LeBron's legacy.
Bristol sending emails to us, pal. We need to talk about it.
They certainly do.
Got to fill our quota.
They do want you to talk about it, but I'm not.
I'm thinking about the Noles season. I'm thinking about the Bucs season. And, I went back and forth in my head thinking, well, Jameis doesn't have excuses now. He has weapons. Then I thought, well, wait a minute. Jameis doesn't care about that. If you have to worry about anything with Jameis Winston, it might be propensity to try and force a football into an area that he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
But when it comes to working and getting and establishing chemistry and producing when he has a chance to produce, dude has always done that.
So this is cool. And I'll talk about it next when we come back. This actually happened when I was driving down to Miami. I was a representative of the Bucs reached out to me, and we were having a conversation about would it be possible to have Winston in studio, or do we need to do a phone interview? How's that going to work? And he said, well, I'll get back to you because camp's getting ready to start again, and I'll have a better idea. But when he called me back, it was a couple days later. I'm driving back from Miami, and me and this guy talked. I'll tell you about this. This is interesting, and I think it's actually relevant in that it was a direct conversation regarding Jameis Winston, his time in Tampa, and what that organization thinks of him right now. And it's, we theorize because we watch from afar and we know from covering him what he is in terms of work ethic. To hear this guy say it and the way he described it, well, I think if you're a Florida State fan or just a fan of people doing well, it's enriching. It'll make you smile. So I'll talk about it next. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Dads, it would be called the Home Depot, where this Father's Day you can get him a new Weber Genesis 2 gas grill. Choose from 2 to 6 burners, multiple colors, and great prices starting at only $499. When it comes to great grilling, every dad deserves Weber. Doesn't yours? Be Dad's #1 fan with a new grill from America's #1 Weber retailer, the Home Depot. More saving, more doing, while supplies last.
Look at that mouth. That poor, parched mouth. So dry. What'd you eat for lunch? Chalk dust? Did your mouth cannonball into a barrel of mothballs? You're being awfully quiet. Is that because your mouth feels like the business end of a Dremel saw? Is it because your mouth just wrote a haiku and all 17 syllables were dry heaves? You're so parched. You know it. I know it. The entire radio knows it. Just admit it. You want a Mountain Dew. Your mouth feels like it just inhaled the insides of a punching bag, and the only remedy is that neon green potion. Right now, your mouth could be tongue bathing in the refreshing citrus kick of Mountain Dew. Instead, it feels like you've been motorboating King Tut's sarcophagus. Show some mercy. Crack open an ice-cold Mountain Dew. You know your mouth wants you to. Do the Dew.
Don't miss Dew Days today at Country Corner Shell, located on the corner of Appalachian Parkway and Capitol Circle Southeast, next to Dairy Queen. Great prices on all Dew products from noon to 6 only. All 12-packs are just $1.99, and all Kickstart singles for only 59 cents. It's today only, noon to 6 at Country Corner Shell.
For better gas mileage and a longer-lasting engine, change your vehicle's oil at Superlube every 3 months or 3,000 miles, whichever comes first. For good times and family fun, Tallahassee heads to the Fun Station. And right now, when you change your oil at Superlube, you'll get a $15 Fun Station gift card. You don't need an appointment. You'll be in and out in no time. And with 19 Tallahassee area Superlubes, there's probably one right around the corner right now.
How I love to Superlube my car. Yes, sir.
Hi, Chris Kraft for Kraft Nissan. How do I convey to you just how good the incentives and discounts are on America's fastest growing car company, Nissan? Seriously, please shop Kraft Nissan before you buy. No one has the incentives and low prices we have. Not Toyota, Chevy, Ford, Honda, or Hyundai. $5,800 in savings on Altima SR. Brand new automatic Frontier pickup starting at just $21,800. 0% interest for 72 months on our most popular models. Rebates up to $10,000 and no payments until football season. I'm telling you, in the over 30 years I've been in the car business, I've never seen such incentives and low prices. I've got pages and pages of special interest rates, rebates, and bonus cash. Kraft Nissan even has a factory rebate for any credit score under 625 to help you with your down payment. Here's the deal. Nissan is America's fastest growing car company, and they want to be #1, and they're buying market share. So please, before you buy, check out Kraft Nissan's exciting lineup of new vehicles. That's all I ask. Stop by Kraft Nissan and look. Kraft Nissan on Mahan Drive between Academy Sports and Costco. Price includes dealer preparation charge.
Are you wanting to raise some extra cash fast? Think Thrifty Nickel. Need to clean out that garage full of stuff you never use? Think Thrifty Nickel. Need a newer car or truck and don't want to break the bank? Think Thrifty Nickel. Buying or selling, your best bet is Thrifty Nickel. All ads appear in print and online for maximum results. Place your ad today and ask for their guaranteed results special. Call 385-0505. Get your free copy of American Classifieds, available at hundreds of locations throughout the greater Tallahassee area.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show. Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. So we were talking a moment ago about it'll be good to talk to Jameis Winston tomorrow. We'll have that interview for you. Well, we're waiting to confirm. I probably just jinxed it, but it hasn't quite been confirmed yet, but it looks likely at this point. almost 100% certain. I mean, I was given a time. I agreed to the time. I'm just waiting to hear back on the yes, we're good for that time. But it was cool because in setting that up, in talking with the director of communications with the Bucs, he didn't know. I mean, he doesn't necessarily know who I am, although he should. He doesn't have any idea. They're very protective of their guys and, moreover, respectful of Jameis's time. So we were kind of talking, and, as we were talking, I said, hey, look, I grew up a Bucs fan, and I've been going to Bucs games forever, and he was talking about the Tampa Bay area and where he lives, and so over time we kind of, began to understand, a little bit about our lives, right? And I said, well, it's important for me that he do well because, A, I root for the Bucs, and B, obviously we had an opportunity to cover him here at Florida State, and obviously that national championship season is still resonating to some degree. And I said, and also, and this would let him know certainly where I stand on this, I felt like the narrative surrounding him was not accurate and completely unfair and really unfortunate. And I like knowing that from what I can tell from afar that he's done nothing but the right thing time and again in Tampa since they made him the number one pick. And he just gushed. He said, I've never worked with an athlete as giving of his time and back to the community the way that Jameis Winston has. That you have to pull him off the field if he's playing with kids. If it's something for kids that, whether it's kids with physical disabilities that we see that camp every year that they have, physical and mental disabilities, whether it's underprivileged kids, whether it's just anything to do with kids, anything. He's all in, asks where he needs to be, how soon can he get there, can he stay an extra hour, can he get an hour earlier, and that he doesn't care whether or not the cameras are there. He just wants to go do that. And when he's not doing that, he's at the facility. They have to kick him out because he's working. And so he said, look, I know you want to talk to him for a long time. We're probably only going to allot about 10 minutes because he's got places to go and he's got camp. He's got other things he's doing. And knowing Jameis, he loses track of it all. And I said, so really it's not just you saying that to me to make me feel better. He's really all in all the time for that community and visiting schools and doing other teammates. If you want to talk about the leadership in the locker room, which we knew would happen, and that would happen through hard work and through talent, frankly. You got to be able to play. But the other way that it would happen is what we've seen him do and we know he would do, just as he did with the Florida State baseball team. If you compete, if you're a player, no matter your skill level or where you are on the depth chart, he has respect for you. He has immense respect for the willingness to sacrifice and to do that no matter what level of skill you have. If you're doing that and you could be a bullpen catcher, he's sitting and talking to you about the game, talking to you about your life, all of that. Well, he's done that with other Buccaneer players and will volunteer to go to their high schools. He did that at Lakewood High School where I went for Murphy. He went with Lewis Murphy to run a camp at Lakewood just because Lewis Murphy said, I'd like you to come do that. I think it'd be pretty cool for the kids in St. Pete. Sure, I'll do it. And he's done that for countless teammates now. And that's the stuff that, you don't always read about necessarily, but you can imagine how that wins over your teammates, not just the player you are on the field, but the guy you are off of it. That's got to be huge.
Behind the curtain for a moment, what do you want to ask him about tomorrow? What are the number 1 and 2 things that you want to hit on? Is it Buccaneers? Is it retrospective Florida State? Is it Florida State baseball?
We'll mention Florida State baseball. I know he's got to be excited for those guys. I think the upcoming season, and then we'll ask maybe a cursory glance at the first 2 years in the league, both of which he threw for over 4,000 yards. But he's had his ups and downs. There have been moments where he's played exceptionally well for a string of games, and there's been times where he'll take a step back, and it's to be expected. I'd like him to kind of touch on where he's at in his arc and in his growth as a professional quarterback. And I always ask quarterbacks, I always ask players this. People who played at an exceptionally high level, and obviously he did, at big-time schools, you would think that the transition from Florida State or an Alabama or a big-time school wouldn't be that great, but almost unfailingly so it is, and they always talk about that. And he has made mention in previous interviews and articles that he couldn't believe the speed of the linebackers. It wasn't the corners, because he said that basically elite corners in college do what elite corners in the NFL do. It's the linebackers that do things that college linebackers simply can't do. The ground they cover, the spaces they're able to get to at that size is not something you see in college.
Well, I think it's only getting faster. And the reason I say that...
Hybrid players.
Jalen Ramsey exists now. Cam Chancellor exists
That's
now.
correct.
Derwin James is real. And he's going to be in the NFL a year from now. He'll be in his OTAs, and here we go. I mean, those types of players are so sought after, and the money is so great that the athlete who used to be, I don't know, a hybrid receiver tight end is now going to get paid a hell of a lot more to stand on the other side of the football. I mean, think about it. Look at Xavier Rhodes, and what Xavier Rhodes was here was an underwhelming wide receiver, and Jimbo Fisher said, you're a defensive back.
You're a corner, that's right.
And now he's an NFL top 100 player the last couple of years. If you look at some of the Pro Football Focus metrics, if you believe in such things, he's one of the best against the run. He shut down Odell Beckham last year in a high-profile matchup. He was one of the more physical players in another primetime game early in the season against Green Bay. He's considered to be a top 5, top 10 corner in the NFL. Because that body type, if you're 6'1" or taller and you have long arms, and then you can run and you can stay in somebody's hip pocket for any length of time, the value for that is through the roof. And if they can find a home for you in the slot on top of that, well, holy cow, you're going to be in the league for 6-7 years operating at that position. It doesn't matter if you're not 250 anymore. You can be 230 and run that role.
It's crazy to me how many guys at 230 run like they run now. I think, for a long time, I would talk about how I was in awe when I first got into media and started covering Florida State. The things that would stand out to me would be when the freshmen reported. And I'm talking about late 90s, early 2000s. I would, you'd go over there and you'd look at that. And obviously, back in those days, press could watch practices. They could be there for the whole thing. They were much more inclusive at that time. We weren't shut out. And you could watch guys come in as true freshmen, and I would think, I played at a pretty big program in St. Pete there. I mean, we were 5A, and, it wasn't a small school, and I know that's changed now. The classifications have all changed, so it may not mean much to somebody today. But back then, it was the second highest you could go. And I was thinking, I played against guys that went on to play at big-time schools and played with guys that went on to play at big-time schools, and I just don't recall kids looking like this, I graduated high school in 89, and I would look at guys coming in 99, 2000, 2001, and they're 225 pounds running 4.5. That just didn't exist. And if it did, the guy was a freak, and he was going to Florida State or Miami or Florida, or in the case of Tommy Carter, our quarterback, he went to Notre Dame, and they made him a corner. But you saw freaks, and they were always the guys that were just outliers. You couldn't believe it. But it seems that in abundance, because of sports-specific year-round training, we've morphed into these superhumans that play the game, and I do think that's also part of the problem, just in terms of who can play the sport and who can't anymore. Everybody played when I was a kid. Would you even encourage your kids to play now if you realize that, genetically speaking, they are not going to be 6'5", 250 pounds? Like, if you're a small guy married to a small woman and your dad wasn't that big and your kid wants to play football, I get it. I think it's rewarding for kids to play all sports. And especially early on, it doesn't really necessarily matter if you're big enough. But if in your mind you're thinking, where do I want to push them? What direction do I want them to go? And your kid's not going to be a monster, you can't really push them into football, because that's not something they can continue to do on into college anymore, because you got to be a freak.
Probably didn't go far enough, too. I said 230, but, think about what Telvin is. Telvin's only 212, 215, and he's able to play the linebacker position because he's sideline to sideline, and he's as good as they come. And, Jalen operates in the slot, and Cam Chancellor, they can't even be over 215 or 220 when they're playing at their optimal weight. It's about speed combined with power, and yes, you generate so much more PSI now than you ever did before because of the training and the way they build your bodies up. It's just, my roommate in Iona, Nick Asimovich was his name. He was 5'9", $165, $170. He played in Tequesta, Florida, and he played in the same region as Willie Williams played. Remember Willie Williams,
good old
the
Willie
five-star?
Williams. Yeah, wonderful human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Willie Williams went to Miami. We ended up going to the Miami Temple game. We saw Devin Hester return a punt for a touchdown. It was one of those where he faced his back towards the end zone. for a full second, then turn around,
peace,
ran up the sidelines,
Sure.
and peace. I was there to see my buddy AJ, who was redshirting that year, but I got to see him, hang out with him for about a half an hour after the game. Met Willie Williams. Anyway, Nick goes up to Willie Williams and asks him a question. Hey, do you remember me? And Willie said, why would I? and Nick said, well, we played against each other 2 years ago, and you lit me up, and I was unconscious for a few minutes. And they had people had to come bring smelling salts. He goes, no offense, but I did that to a lot of people. And I thought to myself, I'm looking at two different classes of human being in terms of size and strength. And you're right. There's almost like if you want to play big time, even high school, college football these days, there's almost just a line that you can't cross for safety purposes. It's like weight classes in wrestling.
Yeah.
Like if you want to go over the middle against somebody like Christian Jones when he was a senior in high school.
Sure.
Remember when he first checked in here?
We thought that guy could play outside linebacker in the NFL right now. Well, Keith Gavin, I told you last year, the second I saw him, I said, that guy looks like he starts at wide receiver, and he's big for an NFL receiver. I mean, he would be a big Anquan Bolden-esque NFL receiver, and he was a freshman. When we saw him walk through the door, I said, that's different. People don't look like – what in the world is that? What 16-year-old kid was making plays on that guy?
Right, and you see it sometimes in the highlight films where you say, what, is this dude playing in like a private school division? Because this is just dumb.
Ridiculous.
This is dumb. But I remember looking at those two human beings, I'm like, this is a man versus a child. And my buddy Nick was in good shape. He was in good football condition, and if you saw him at a Friday night at a local establishment, you'd say, all right, that guy can handle himself. Not that I'm afraid, but he can handle himself. So, maybe want to be leery of that. But then you stand next to these titans that are only 17, 18 years old.
That's why I marvel when we see kids come through here at Florida State, any program for that matter. But because we've been in the locker room to cover this program, when you see tiny guys that find a way not only to make a team, but to prosper, just to really, really thrive and prosper and do well in that environment despite being tiny. It is truly rare. You have to be like Chris Thompson. When if you stood next to him, you'd think, how in the hell does he survive on a daily basis? And then there he is in the National Football League. You have to have transcendent speed, vision, and elusiveness in the open field to be able to get by with a body like that. I'm not saying he's not strong. Obviously, for his size, he is. But that guy, it's like a pinball. Like Warwick Dunn back in the day was bigger than Chris Thompson. I mean, I think considerably.
I remember talking to Chris in the locker room after the BCS title game. I got to talk to him for a good 3 or 4 minutes and was talking about, the leading up to the 2013 title,
program.
Being part of the program and how much did it hurt him? How much was it bittersweet? But how happy was he for all these guys? And I remember after the interview was over thinking about when they talked to him at the ACC title game in 12. And, he's in the Florida State track outfit. And he's talking about thanking the Noel Nation.
He was awesome, and it's always made him somebody that we absolutely adore.
And he wanted to almost tear up a little bit at that moment because he thought, well, that's the end of an amazing career. And I thought it even after that interview in the BCS locker room. Man, that stinks that he didn't get to enjoy this moment because I don't think he's going to last. And then here he still is.
Still in the league.
Still in the league playing for the Redskins.
Yeah, it's and he would be a rarity. They exist. Those kinds of guys still exist, but it is very, very rare. And you find typically that the little guys we're describing that do find a way to make it, as our discussion devolves from the speed and size of linebackers that Winston will be talking about tomorrow on the show to what can make it, you find that the only places that happens is occasionally at the defensive back position and at running back, where you can avoid the hits, where you can do something about it and get down and find ways to get away with it. But other than that, any position that has to take anything head on, no.
Well, the opposite is obviously Jameis, and we already know about his height and weight, and you can see that on television. But if you stand next to the guy, or you're walking next to him in the hallway, going out for interviews, and then he's walking into the cafeteria back in the day, even as a redshirt freshman, you thought, whoa,
that's a big dude. Yeah,
that frame is big, like it can handle abuse.
Well,
and that's why guys bounce off of him
and
more often than not.
And he'd put the pounds on it. He wasn't afraid.
In those days, baseball Jameis was the best Jameis.
It was my favorite Jameis because he was huge. Somebody would say rotund. He'd get out there, that fat would be pouring over the side. Like, come on, man. You're not even trying. But he's in elite shape now. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
50 Market Street, Suite 200, right above the Pink Narcissus.
Gentlemen, hurry into JCPenney's biggest sale of the season. Raise your game with great savings on menswear designed by Michael Strahan exclusively at JCPenney. Get 50% off suit separates and dress shirts from Collection by Michael Strahan. And up to 40% off MSX activewear, including big and tall. Save more with a coupon for $10 off when you spend $25 or more on select items. Hurry, and Sunday. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. Coupon valid 6/14 to 6/18. Some exclusions and restrictions apply. See store at jcp.com for details. Season refers to 6/14 to 6/18.
What if there was a toy store for dads? It would be called the Home Depot, where this Father's Day you can get him a new Weber Genesis 2 gas grill. Choose from 2 to 6 burners, multiple colors, and great prices starting at only $499. When it comes to great grilling, every dad deserves Weber. Doesn't yours? Be dad's #1 fan with a new grill from America's #1 Weber retailer, the Home Depot. More saving, more doing, while supplies last.
If you haven't stopped into Tallahassee's favorite hangout, the Fourth Quarter Bar and Grill on North Monroe Street, you're missing out.
Hey, it's me, Courtney. Hey, it's me, Marissa. Last but not least, I'm Kim, and we're the girls from the Fourth Quarter.
Okay, girls, there are lots of great nights to stop in at the Fourth Quarter, including Monday, where it's happy hour all day, including 2-for-1 Wells. There's Tuesday night trivia with Professor Jimmy, where you can win money. What other night should we stop by the Fourth Quarter?
It's Kim again. Join me Saturday and Sunday mornings for Bubbles and Brunch from 7 to 2. $18.99, all you can drink mimosas and Bloody Marys, and it includes breakfast.
Hey, Riss here. Come join me for lunch. We have over 20 lunch specials for just $7.50, and that includes a drink.
I'm Courtney. Visit me on Monday nights when we have 2-for-1 Wells, calls, and domestic drafts all night.
Don't miss out on the girls of the Fourth Quarter. Pick your favorite night and stop in. Say hi to the girls at 2033 North Monroe Street, the Fourth Quarter Bar and Grill, Tallahassee's favorite hangout.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Why? Because you can save 45% on packages compared to your high-priced cable bill. Wow. Take those giant scissors out and cut the cable and save with Dish TV. Plus, you get a free DVR upgrade to record your favorite shows and free installation. And with Dish Anywhere, you can watch TV for free on your mobile device. Act fast. You can save hundreds of dollars. Does your cable company do that for you? I don't think so. Get all the best TV programming at your fingertips at a fraction of the price of cable TV. So say adios, arrivederci, goodbye to the high cable bill and save up to 45% on Dish TV packages today. These are limited time offers and can change at any time. Call fast. 800-344-2066. 800-344-2066. 800-344-2066. That's 800-344-2066.
Get your weekend started right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Saturdays at 6 a.m. with Fishing Florida Radio. Listen to the three amigos, Boudreaux, Steve Chapman, and Captain Mike Ortega as they catch you up to speed on what's new and biting in the North Florida region. Big-time guests, celebrities, interviews, and 3 hours of the fishing info you need. Fishing Florida Radio is brought to you by Sea Quarters Marina off Highway 98 in Carabel. Sea Quarters Marina, your full-service marina, and presented by Hobbit American Grill, locally owned and operated since 1978.
Miller's Tree Service, we go out on a limb for you.
Hey, this is Clay Culpepper with Miller's Tree Service. Summertime is here and storm season is right around the corner. We offer free consultations with a certified arborist where we meet with you and advise you on which trees are healthy, diseased, dead, or ones that may need trimming or even removal.
Miller's Tree Service, we go out on a limb for you.
Give us a call at 894-TREE.
Calling all dads. Edwin Watts Golf Shops knows what you really want for Father's Day. New golf gear. Pick up the Bushnell Tour V4 Shift, Pro X2, or the Neo Ion GPS watch, now each $50 off. And score 2 dozen Wilson Duo golf balls for just $30. Try the hottest drivers on the market like the TaylorMade M1 and M2 or the Callaway Epic. Hard to shop for dad? Gift cards are available in any amount. And if your gift isn't up to par, you'll have 90 days to exchange it. Edwin Watts has you covered, Dad.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
So many mouths to feed on the farm.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Brent has an alarm set on my phone to let me know when your show starts. Should I turn that off? Well, I hate alarms, Brent. I would just have a buzzing thing, like a vibration. Just a little bzz, bzz. There you go. That's what you do. I appreciate that you have an alarm reminding you that this great show is coming on the air and that you don't want to miss it. It is, it's with gratitude that I say that. I mean that. But you don't have to have an all crazy alarm. Just a little zip, zip, there you go. Hey, something's happening. Or it could just populate on your YouTube feed or your podcast.
What if you recorded that and then we could convert it to a ringtone and we sent it to him where you go, bzz, bzz. There you go.
What do you think, Brent? You want me to do that? I'll go, bzz, bzz. Hey, I'm coming on. Listen to me. I'm about to start. That's the alarm. Hey, Brent, my show's about to start. You should be listening now. Thanks, buddy.
Can be yours for only $49.99.
I'll do alarms from people moving forward. Steven writes, YouTube jammed up again. Hashtag a-hole. And he's giving the angry steam coming out of his nose emoji to go with it.
Hashtag a-hole.
I don't know what to tell you there, brother. I don't know why that's happening. I did yell at some people during the break, screamed down our poor interns. Tom was shuddering, recoiling, and saying that I needed to calm down. But because, Steven, I got your tweet, I said, that's it. I've had enough. It's 2 days in a row. What are we doing around here?
Director Matthew broke out the baseball bat in between segments 1 and 2.
Had a little conversation with the kids. So we're doing that. And Chris wanted to know that even though he knows we're going to be talking about baseball primarily, he wanted to know the best 3 songs from the U2 Joshua Tree tour that I saw. And I said, Exit, Red Hill Mining Town, and In God's Country. All 3 were outstanding, although I could have given you a close, perhaps 4th. There were several to choose from, but those were the 3 that really stood out to me. Also, I would say Below the Blue Sky was outstanding, too.
How long was the set for this particular concert?
2.5 hours, almost 3 hours.
They played that long, did they?
Oh, yeah. See, what they did was, I mean, they do the album start to finish 1 through 11, but they don't do that right away because they know, I mean, they're not dummy. They're no dummies. They're like, look, man, if you think about it, Sunday Bloody Sunday is not on Joshua Tree. If you think, Pride in the Name of Love is not on Joshua Tree. So people want to hear those songs, and they know that. So they come right out the box with Sunday Bloody Sunday. They opened with that. And then you see him walking out. I'm like, whoa, they're coming out swinging. And that's how they opened. And they knock out 4 or 5 big hits off of other albums. And then they walk and move to another part of the stage, which is the American West landscape, and it's constantly changing. It's fantastic. You're in the Grand Canyon, then you're by the actual Joshua Tree, and then it's fantastic. Anyhow, a lot of imagery and art and cool things, yeah.
How did Bono's voice hold up over 2.5 hours?
Good. He's not what he once was. I mean, this is the weird thing. I saw U2 for the first time in 1984 because I'm ancient. 2 years before you were born, I saw them in concert at the Sundome in Tampa.
The Sundome was around in 1984?
Sure, yeah. And so I saw him.
Well.
I was driven there. I couldn't even drive. My mom drove me there, along with my friend Jason Herring. And anyhow, we went to that show, and a couple of things stand out about it. I actually went to school with a guy who got to go up on stage and play with The Edge. He played acoustic guitar and got to play Knocking on Heaven's Door. Anyhow, crazy. So that was cool, and it made the St. Pete Times, and the picture was in the paper. It's nuts. Anyhow, then I saw him again in 87 Tampa Stadium, and that was on this tour, which is the 30-year anniversary of, and I just saw them in Miami. So you know, to see a very young Bono to where we are now, he's 57, it's different. It's definitely different.
Uh-oh. Did it depress you to see Bono?
No. I just, listen, I mean, that's with anybody. If you've been following a musician, it could be any musician. Obviously, if you saw them in their 20s, in the prime of their career as they were coming up, and then they're now almost 60 years old, there are changes. It's a reminder of your own mortality is all it is.
You'll be seeing him at the Mirage on a Tuesday in 30 years.
Someday. Yeah, but no, he was great. He just... There's certain notes that are a little bit more difficult, you can tell, and he has to ready himself for certain parts of songs you can hear.
Did they change the key at all, too, to be helpful to him?
Sometimes they do. They try to help out. You know, on that note, that happens to everybody. I mean, your voice changes over time, and for some people it's for the better, and others it's for the worse, and sometimes you can work around it. But if you had songs in your youth that required you to get way up here, well, at 50 and 60, you ain't doing that. And, you know, I feel like anything Elton John ever made after 1980 is garbage. But that said, plenty of people like Elton John. And he came here, and my wife said that it was ridiculous. He couldn't, I mean, it was just like he'd let his singers sing basically the whole song, and he's way down here.
Yeah, where the band just, you know, where the lead singer holds the microphone.
Holds the mic.
Hey, listen, hey-hole.
Yeah.
I didn't drop 225.
I don't care about Jerry over there smoking 2 packs a day, singing his heart out to Sunday Bloody Sunday. I paid for you to belt out those tunes. Yeah.
225 for Lawns, man. Let's go.
It was great, though, and it was, you know, at 46... You do start, if you're going to see bands that are still around all these years later, whether that's, for me, like when I was in college, you know, Pearl Jam and, well, Nirvana's, you know, obviously can't see them. But really, you can't see anybody from the Pacific Northwest, from the grunge area. They're all dead except for Vedder. But like those bands, you can't, I mean, that was 25 and 30 years ago. You can't, it's crazy to think about. It's just really... That's why, admittedly, sometimes I cringe when I see, like, the Rolling Stones are touring, and you go, come on, man, what are we doing here? But it is remarkable that Mick Jagger's in his 70s dancing around like that. I mean, just dancing around crazy in his 70s, and he's still doing it. It's like he's vibrant. I don't want to see it, but he can still do it in his 70s. It's impressive.
You want to see the tight pants? And,
I don't need all the dancing and all that. That's fine. I am impressed that he can do it, and he's obviously kept himself in amazing shape because you don't see too many 70-somethings doing that. It's just like when you watch an athlete and then you see them in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. You know, that's the problem that you have if you're an entertainer of any kind. You're stuck in people's minds as this thing that they grew up watching, and then the next time they see you is 30 years later, and they're like, oh, what has happened? Well, time. That's what's happened. That poor bastard can't be the 25-year-old you saw dominate. And it happens all the time with basketball players. When you see these guys, the best athletes in the world, and then you look at, you know, I mean, I don't know if LeBron will let himself go, but if we see LeBron at 60, I mean, to see the specimen that he is and has been in his prime, it'll be depressing.
Well, he's already 55, so that's only a couple of years away.
He looks it, right?
You see, you know, a few months back, it might have been even longer than that, Stu Gatz was asking Dominique Wilkins if he would ever do a dunk contest if they lowered it to 9 feet. And he said, I could still do all crazy stuff if you lower it down. Me and Michael will do it tomorrow. How cool would that be to see an old man dunk contest? You know,
I think
Jordan
it would be
Jordan
disheartening.
Jordan would cross train for 6 weeks, 8 weeks ahead of time for that.
Well, I'll tell you, those were the best dunk contests. And 1 year they allowed Spud Webb to go in there and steal it, which was ridiculous. He shouldn't have won it. But anyhow, that said, I'm still mad about that. I'm like, okay, it's cool. A little man can dunk. It's great. But no, it was not. He did not have the most imaginative dunks. Anyhow, there was a year that Jordan won it that Neek should have won it. And I remember thinking, how am I going to – because we would go to school and debate these things back when the dunk contest was something to still care about. And we would go, and the next day everybody would get their shots in about, who I thought was good, and everybody would shout them down or whatever. And I remember thinking, well, I had to go to school, and I was of the mindset that all my Jordan-loving friends are going to be disappointed when I tell them Neek should have won that contest. Dominique was – he was incredible. I would guess that, and first of all, did Neek say to Stu Gotts that he can still dunk on a 10-foot rim?
He did. He said he could do it, but if you wanted to see a show, you could lower it, and he could do some. I mean, still, that's an amazing feat to be as old as those guys are, and if you lower it down to 9, they could still do
windmills and all that,
360s or some such thing,
tomahawks and all that. Yeah, well, I don't know that I would enjoy that. I think I'd be saddened. But
it didn't sadden you to see Bono. That didn't make you feel old or sad inside.
No, he was good. He did. If they couldn't perform the songs, it would have really saddened me. But he did.
That's impressive. Did they give him a couple breaks? Did they have any breaks in the set, or maybe instrumentals where they gave him 5-10 minutes?
Not really. No. There was one.
Impressive.
There was one mini break where he kind of changed outfits, if you will. Not outfits, but just like kind of switched over to a different looking hat and character, if you will. He was kind of making fun of televangelists, so he took on the role of being a televangelist and making fun of that, which was great. And when he did that, he changed, and there was a little moment in time. But other than that, there's no breaks, no. And then went straight. The encore, they come out, they straight into Elevation and Vertigo and all that, and they're just flying through. I'm like, man, my man's gonna be. He did look tired. That's the one difference. Is that as it ended, I thought he's gonna collapse. He's gonna need like 2 days to recover from this. He was not at the end. He was not running around anymore. He was stationary, finishing the song, sort of the. Woo!
There wasn't.
We need to call it a day here, boys.
There wasn't a first Joshua Tree prancing around the stage, kind of gallivanting.
No, it was when they were towards the end. He was stationary, sweating his ass off, trying to get through the songs. That was the only difference. All right, hour number 2, forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Base Physical Therapy, and the entire Peak Human Performance team to bring you a unique, progressive approach to fitness. An approach that's simple and user-friendly. I set the rules to get results, and you choose your workout. Want to find out more? Head to facebook.com/FrequencyXP. Talk directly to me with no pressure and no risks. Frequency XP. Think you're not a freak? Think again. Facebook.com/FrequencyXP.
When it comes to live gaming excitement, Creek Entertainment Gretna is your hometown headquarters. With live poker and simulcast race betting, you've got more winning opportunities right here close to home. Plus, we now offer 3-card poker and Pai Gow in our card room. Satisfy big appetites at Stables, featuring hot and cold sandwiches, salads, and weekend specials. There's always something exciting going on at Creek Entertainment Gretna, I-10 exit 174, Gretna, Florida.
Sea Quarters Marina, located right off Highway 98 in Carabel, Florida. They offer free Wi-Fi and pump outs. Laundry facilities, diesel pumps, and non-ethanol pumps are located on site. Transit boats are welcome, and the slips are 35 by 55. They have plenty of ice as well as beer for your all-day fishing trips. You can contact them by phone at 850-697-8400, online at seaquartersmarina.com, or like them on Facebook at Sea Quarters Marina.
Look at that mouth. That poor, parched mouth. So dry. What'd you eat for lunch? Chalk dust? Did your mouth cannonball into a barrel of mothballs? You're being awfully quiet. Is that because your mouth feels like the business end of a Dremel saw? Is it because your mouth just wrote a haiku and all 17 syllables were dry heaves? You're so parched. You know it. I know it. The entire radio knows it. Just admit it. You want a Mountain Dew. Your mouth feels like it just inhaled the insides of a punching bag, and the only remedy is that neon green potion. Right now, your mouth could be tongue bathing in the refreshing citrus kick of Mountain Dew. Instead, it feels like you've been motorboating King Tut's sarcophagus. Show some mercy. Crack open an ice-cold Mountain Dew. You know your mouth wants you to. Do the Dew.
Don't miss Dew Days today at Country Corner Shell, located on the corner of Appalachian Parkway and Capitol Circle Southeast, next to Dairy Queen. Great prices on all Dew products from noon to 6 only. All 12-packs are just $1.99, and all Kickstart singles for only 59 cents. It's today only, noon to 6 at Country Corner Shell.
Feeling seafood, but the usual spots aren't calling your name? The all-new Saltwater Seafood Company is the place to be. Happy hour is Monday through Friday from 3 to 7 p.m., featuring $3 drafts, $3 house wines, $3 wells, and half-off apps and oysters at the bar. Stop in for brunch every Saturday and Sunday starting at 11 a.m. The all-new Saltwater Seafood Company, an original seafood and cocktail lounge, 1926 Capitol Circle Northeast. Call them at 329-2105 or head on over to saltwaterseafoodcompany.com to check out their brand new menu.
O'Reilly. If your paint job is looking less than new, bring back that showroom shine with Formula One Wash and Wax, Paste Wax, or Scratch Out, on sale now for $2.99 each at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Keep your vehicle looking new with Formula One Auto Care products, $2.99 each at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Ace is having our biggest Craftsman sale of the year, just in time for Father's Day. Now through Monday only, find over $600 in savings on our best Craftsman products throughout the store, including hand tools, power tools, tool chests, outdoor power equipment, and more. Hurry in now for the biggest Craftsman sale of the year, only at your local Ace. Sale ends Monday. Offers valid at participating stores and include instant savings for Ace Rewards members. See store for details.
Listen up. Dad is the man, and Beefs has a plan. Get to Beef O'Brady's on Father's Day. Buy a meal of equal or greater value, and he'll eat for free. So this Sunday, beef up Father's Day at participating locations. See Beefs for details.
Broadcasting live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios. This is 97.9 ESPN Radio, WTSM, Woodville, Thomasville, Tallahassee. Tallahassee Sports Center.
I'm Lee Gordon. It's all about Omaha for the Florida State Seminoles. Florida State making its 22nd trip to Omaha, looking for that first College World Series crown. They get underway Saturday night against LSU. Well, it's never too early to talk Seminole football. ESPN's Mitch Sherman included a pair of Florida State players in his list of the best edge rushing tandems in the country. Josh Sweat and Brian Burns have made that list. Well, we all know college athletes like to make a little money from time to time, and UCF kicker Donald De La Haye has decided YouTube is the way to go. He's got a very popular channel, but in his most recent video, he says the school has asked him to stop making money off his videos to preserve his amateur status. And the Golden State Warriors are celebrating their championship with a parade today. As for the story they won't visit the White House, the Warriors say that decision is still up in the air.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free. Always don't miss anything. If you are to miss something, we'll get you covered because we're going to post the show, all 3 hours of it, both on iTunes and in our own audio vault upon the conclusion of the program. And that's where you'll go and find it and listen with limited commercial interruption. Thanks to our great podcast sponsor, the fine folks at SVN. Southland Commercial, Carlton Dean, carltondean.com to learn more. Email the show if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. Find me on Twitter at jcameronshow, WTSM app, mobile devices. And on YouTube, you can follow along with the show, watch us perform the show if that's your thing. Type in ESPN Tallahassee when you're on YouTube and you'll find us. We've had some sputtering starts on the YouTube feeds the last 2 days, but we're on it. Cracking skulls over here behind the scenes. That's the way Tom Lang runs things around there.
Zero tolerance.
Can't have all that nonsense.
You understand?
You know the U.S. Open starts tomorrow, buddy?
Yes, it does.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm disappointed to hear that they cut back some of the fescue. You know how I love fescue. I've always had a thing about fescue. I think it should be rampant. I'd like to see fescue everywhere, except for when I'm playing golf. And I don't want to be in the fescue because I can't get out of the fescue, and that leads to me saying other F words that don't have anything to do with fescue. And you know what? By the way, I will give credit to one Rory McIlroy, who basically called Kevin Na a bitch. And thank you for doing so, Rory. I'm proud of you for that. McIlroy. Responding to Kevin Na's criticism of the fescue, Na tweeted or Instagrammed a photo of the crazy fescue and how he couldn't find his ball. He was saying that during the practice round, I just can't find, this is ridiculous. It's too much. They need to do something about this. It's not playable. And this isn't what golf is all about. And then the USGA took some bite out of the holes by cutting back a lot of the fescue, just how far-reaching the fescue was. Not just the height of the fescue, but how far it extended. They cut way back. Some 10 yards worth of fescue they cut and removed in certain holes. And because they were worried that other players like Kevin Na would share Kevin Na's feelings on this issue. And so some people criticized the USGA for doing that, for caving, because this, after all, of all the tournaments, is the only one really, where the idea is to make these guys struggle for even par, like work hard for even par. All the other courses around the world and events around the world routinely feature a birdie festival, and the best players of the world are free to go at it, and they'll win with minus 20. Minus 12, minus 15, minus 30 in some cases, right? They can, over a 4-day period, make a mockery of these courses. That's how good they are. But this is the one event where the goal is to make sure that doesn't happen, that the winner isn't walking out of there unless he has just a magical performance the way Tiger did, where he was the only one under par and the next closest person was +2. Those kinds of magical performances really stand out because of the course difficulty, because of how hard it is just to shoot even par at a U.S. Open. And so Erin Hills, beautiful course, should be amazing, expansive fairways. And this is what Rory McIlroy had to say about that. when he was asked about what the USGA did in cutting back the fescue in some cases. And I'm reading his quote now. It was even funnier to watch him say it. You could see he almost looked perplexed and was being careful in the way that he parsed his words because he didn't want to call anybody out specifically. But obviously this is in basically response to Kevin Na and other players who were complaining about this. Quote, "We have 60 yards from the left line to the right line. You've got 156 of the best players in the world that are here. If we can't hit it within that avenue, you might as well pack your bags and just go home." Like, I don't get, and then he paused, I mean, these are the widest fairways we've ever played in a U.S. Open. And even the first and second cut, it's another 10 yards on top of that. So if you've got 50 or 60 yards to hit it into, and you're complaining about the fescue that's wider than that, I can't see how that's an issue. I get that it's thick and whatever, but don't hit it in there. It is a hazard. If you put red lines just right along the sides of those things, people wouldn't even be complaining. It's a hazard, and you would go on and so forth. I don't know why anybody's bringing this up. It's the U.S. Open. It's supposed to be our toughest test. And if guys can't put it in play with a 50-yard zone to hit into, well, they just don't have much to complain about at that point. Well done, sir.
He's absolutely right. This is akin to what Jordan Spieth was talking about last year when it was par 4, par 5. Actually, might have been 2 years ago at Chambers Bay. And he was talking about this is the dumbest hole I've ever seen.
And you're like, it's relative to par, dude. Who cares?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what the number is.
If the scoring average is 4.6 and you come in with a 4, then you're 0.6 of a shot ahead of the field. So you're up on the field. And if it's 4.6 and you get a 5, well, then you're behind the field. That's all that matters. I mean, it's not about setting under par records, although they might flirt with something this year because every player who comes off the course, I've been watching the live from the coverage for the Golf Channel, they all love it, and usually that's not the case. Usually you get about a 50-50 split with people saying, well, I mean,
some of these holes are borderline unplayable.
And then the other guys say, well, this is just dumb. No, not this time. People are saying this is the best, conditions I've ever seen for the U.S. Open. So I would imagine scoring conditions, as long as the weather cooperates, is going to be just fine. And a quick note for people wanting to watch tomorrow, USOpen.com does have a couple of featured groups in the morning before television. And at 8:45, you can watch John Rahm, Ricky Fowler, Hideki Matsuyama. At 9:30, Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Martin Keimer. A couple of good groups on the website only. Coverage begins on TV at 11 a.m. on FS1. However, pregame coverage at 9 o'clock in the morning, undisputed with Skip Bayless at the U.S. Open.
No. That's not actually happening, right?
It is.
That's a real thing?
I'm looking at it right now, USOpen.com.
I thought you were just being sarcastic
Skip Bayless
to make
is
fun of. No.
Undisputed at the U.S. Open from 9 to 9:30 tomorrow, buddy.
Nobody needs that, ever. No.
That's happening.
Why don't you just add Chris Berman to the broadcast? Good Lord. No.
It's a 25-footer for birdie.
I tuned in to old FS1 this morning. I didn't even know it was that. I didn't know where that was on my television. True story. I didn't. I was just flipping around looking to see, outside of the Golf Channel, which I do like, I was looking to see, who had the coverage. And then I heard Joe Buck. And I was like, what the hell is Joe Buck? Oh, I forgot. Damn it, man. Azinger's there, though.
Yeah, Joe Buck is the main guy, but remember, last year they came leaps and bounds from where they were in 2015.
It was tragic.
But last year was good. Last year was actually quite good.
I don't think it imprinted with me that way. I don't recall it being that good, but maybe you're right.
Well, go back, check the tapes. I think you liked it.
I might have. I can't remember. I don't remember the U.S. Open that well last year.
That was Dustin Johnson.
Yeah, I know Dustin. Yeah, he stuck it, and he got mad at the cameraman on 18, as he should have been.
Which was awesome.
And then he came to within a foot of the hole.
A 5-iron from 205, whatever
I think it was a 6-iron, and he did. He stuck that. He was in complete control, even after they informed him that they were going to screw him. And now that rule has since been changed, thankfully.
But where Rory's right, again, this is somebody growing up playing golf and loving the sport. If that was water, then nobody would have a problem. But because it's something that's in between, all of a sudden we have an issue here?
Well, also, he took pictures, Rory did, and posted them, as did some other golfers who were making the point similar to that of Rory's, which is you have a freaking airport to land this thing into. I mean, most of the holes, if you're wayward that far that you end up in the fescue, well, screw you, man. It's professional golf. You shouldn't be hitting the ball that far left or that far right. You've got 75 yards to hit into. I mean, it's literally wider at times in some spots than a freaking football field. My man, I'm not any good at golf, and I would likely maybe one attitude, hit that fairway.
If you didn't, you can't be mad at the course.
Right. I would just go,
You know.
I just yanked the hell out of that one, didn't I?
If I'm 100
I'm
in,
over
and I
in
make,
the fescue.
Now, this is what's happened a lot lately, but if I'm 100 in, middle of the fairway, and I make 5, I can't blame the course.
No, that's your sorry short game.
Well, if they didn't put the pin so close to the edge of the green.
If I could just putt on these greens, if golf wasn't so damn hard, I might have parred this. Yeah, and truthfully, and this is unfortunate for him because I think it's mental. And I do feel for guys. It's annoying, but I do feel for guys whenever they have mental hangups. When guys that play really slow begin to complain about conditions and they've had a problem in the past where they've been put on the clock or they've got a grip-regrip situation going on the way Sergio did so many years ago, nobody wants to hear from that dude about problems with the course because they already have a built-up level of animosity towards the guy for having to have to sit there and watch his ass take the allotted time, the maximum allotted time between shots already and slowing things down. And Na is the slowest player in the world, or one of, and has been warned countless times. But he's got it. I mean, I know it's like the yips, but my man.
It's like a kicker complaining about the rain.
By the way, bravo. And since I'm going to bring it up every time it doesn't happen, I have to talk about it when it does. But old Roberto got the best of Nick Foles the other day. Did you see that?
Yeah, he went perfect in the distance drills. Yeah.
All right, Berto. I gave you 0 chance to compete for that job. I still don't think you're going to win it, but I'm rooting for you. I'd like to see it work out. I'd be happier if the Bucs pick wasn't a complete waste and bust. I'd be really happy if our former Noel was to go on and have a thriving career, but, I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay, so 0 to 100, you had him at a 0.
I had him at a 0% chance, and he got smoked in the first contest when Nick went 4 of 4 or 5 of 5 or whatever, and he went 2 of 5. And I said, well, this is over. What are we doing here? This was the easiest thing
that was
in
on
the
the
call. The small goalpost.
The small post.
My man was perfect, and your boy over here was 2 of 5.
Okay, the Aguayo meter. What you got him at now?
25.
Really?
25% chance that he wins the job. It's not like he's devoid of talent. See, sometimes these things are very simple. A guy could have a better day than another guy, but he's just talentless, relatively speaking, compared to the other guy. So at the end of the day, the talent's going to win out, and you say, well, so what? Your boy had a good day, whatever. But Aguayo's got talent. At his best, he was the best in the country. And if you're ever the best in the country at something, then you've got a fighting chance, obviously, to prosper at the next level. And he was, for a good long while at Florida State, the best in the country. That's why it was all the more maddening to see him turn into a suckfest when he got to the NFL, which was brought on by the pressures of being drafted in the second round, which we should have never done. And, he wilted. But it's not for lack of talent. I just, hopefully he can get past the fact that he knows. See, to me, it's the worst thing in the world to be a kicker in a situation where you're worried about other things beyond just making a kick. And how would you not be worried about the fact that you're going to look bad if you get cut in year 2 after being a second-round pick, knowing that the fans already, at the very least, look at you with a jaundiced eye every time you jog out there? I mean, anything over 40 yards, most people in that stadium are like, no chance in hell he makes this. I mean, think about how many times you were watching games last year as a Bucs fan or just an interested observer because you're rooting for former Noles in the NFL, and you watch Roberto Aguayo go out there to kick for the Bucs. If they announced on TV, well, this will be a 47-yard kick, you got up to do whatever you needed to do to get your refreshments, to get some more food, because you knew there was no way in hell he was going to make that kick. No way. 0%. Every time I'd watch him line up something more than 45 yards, I'd go, why are we doing this? We should just pooch punt. There's no way he's going to make this.
That was the time for bathroom management, which
Right.
is a really important thing when it comes to game watching. You got to know what time to get up. And if Aguayo was kicking from, I'd say the cutoff was 43.5. So if it was 44 and beyond, I didn't have any faith.
0%, you think, at 44 yards?
I don't want to watch at that point.
You're uncomfortable.
I don't want to watch.
Hey, by the way, that's something, too. If my second-round pick has made watching the game uncomfortable, then maybe we shouldn't have taken him in the second round. Like, if I have to now be squirming in the second quarter of a 3-3, it wouldn't be 3-3, he wouldn't have made a field goal, of a 7-7 ball game, and we bring him out there to make a simple 38-yard kick, and I get nervous. Well, what the hell are we doing here?
Apologize for not responding immediately. I just got a call from ESPN up north. They said that they've been monitoring the show, and we have not talked about LeBron's legacy or Kevin Durant at all today.
LeBron legacy talk next on the Jeff Cameron Show. Maybe we won't really do that. But maybe they just heard that and went, okay, he's getting into LeBron now. We knew he'd be a good soldier.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Clients moving into their own homes and veterans in a rehousing program. In 2016, we helped 138 families, including 33 vets, rebuild their lives. For more information or to have your furniture picked up, call 224-ECHO. Call 224-ECHO.
Milwaukee brings on the power. New high-demand 9-amp-hour batteries to power those demanding cordless applications. Purchase a 9-amp-hour starter kit battery and charger and receive a cordless skill saw or Sawzall for only $249, a $490 value if purchased separately. Check out the e-rebate when you buy Milwaukee Sawzall blades and hole saws. Cornerstone Tool and Fastener, the largest Milwaukee selection in the area. Big store pricing with local service. 2 locations, 1110 Stuckey Ave and 3269 Crawfordville Highway. Tallahassee location open on Saturdays, 8 a.m. to noon.
Miller's Tree Service, we go out on a limb for you.
Hey, this is Clay Culpepper with Miller's Tree Service. Summertime is here and storm season is right around the corner. We offer free consultations with a certified arborist where we meet with you and advise you on which trees are healthy, diseased, dead, or ones that may need trimming or even removal.
Miller's Tree Service, we go out on a limb for you.
Give us a call at 894-TREE.
Gentlemen, hurry into JCPenney's biggest sale of the season. Raise your game with great savings on menswear designed by Michael Strahan exclusively at JCPenney. Get 50% off suit separates and dress shirts from Collection by Michael Strahan. And up to 40% off MSX activewear, including big and tall. Save more with a coupon for $10 off when you spend $25 or more on select items. Hurry, and Sunday. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. Coupon valid 6/14 to 6/18. Some exclusions and restrictions apply. See store at jcp.com for details. Season refers to 6/14 to 6/18.
What if there was a toy store for dads? It would be called the Home Depot, where this Father's Day you can get him a new Weber Genesis 2 gas grill. Choose from 2 to 6 burners, multiple colors, and great prices starting at only $499. When it comes to great grilling, every dad deserves Weber. Doesn't yours? Be Dad's #1 fan with a new grill from America's #1 Weber retailer, the Home Depot. More saving, more doing, while supplies last.
If you haven't stopped into Tallahassee's favorite hangout, the Fourth Quarter Bar and Grill on North Monroe Street, you're missing out.
Hey, it's me, Courtney. Hey, it's me, Marissa.
Last but not least, I'm Kim, and we're the girls from the Fourth Quarter.
Okay, girls, there are lots of great nights to stop in at the Fourth Quarter, including Monday, where it's happy hour all day, including 2-for-1 Wells. There's Tuesday night trivia with Professor Jimmy, where you can win money. What other night should we stop by the Fourth Quarter?
It's Kim again. Join me Saturday and Sunday mornings for Bubbles and Brunch from 7 to 2. $18.99, all you can drink. drink mimosas and Bloody Marys, and it includes breakfast.
Hey, Riss here. Come join me for lunch. We have over 20 lunch specials for just $7.50, and that includes a drink.
I'm Courtney. Visit me on Monday nights when we have 2-for-1 wells, calls, and domestic drafts all night.
Don't miss out on the girls of the fourth quarter. Pick your favorite night and stop in. Say hi to the girls at 2033 North Monroe Street, the Fourth Quarter Bar and Grill, Tallahassee's favorite hangout.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
The Queen of Spain.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. You know, did you watch any last night? We were joking just a moment ago about LeBron's legacy, but in assessing the finals and the state of the NBA, I noticed a couple of things. First of all, as I suspected, last night's first part of the best of enemies, Lakers-Celtics 30 for 30, was exceptional. And some cool information in terms of how those teams were comprised and the thought process behind, going out and drafting as the Celtics did and the Lakers did.
I didn't catch any of it. No.
You'll like it. You can watch it on demand. You'll like it.
I was pissed because I invested a little bit in the Mets game. They ended up losing 14-3. And by the time I decided to give up on that game,
it was too far along in the other.
Yeah, I mean, then you join the documentary in the middle of it, and I want to see the whole thing start to finish.
Part 2's tonight, but yes, it's really good. And I just, it's perfect for a guy my age, admittedly. It's kind of just geared towards people in their 40s, really. If you grew up and kind of fell in love with the sport at that time, obviously you then have an affinity for that era of basketball. And, that can blind you to the fact that things are better in a lot of ways in today's NBA than they were in the 80s. And I know that. I'm aware of that. But I do really, really enjoy the series and enjoy the insights you glean from things like this regarding that rivalry. And their willingness to talk about how race fueled a big part of that rivalry and also the climate at the time in the two cities, in Boston and Los Angeles. But then also the mindsets of those players. I always wondered what the players thought. Like, what did the black players on the Celtics think about the idea that white America loved the Celtics because they had white players that weren't just on the team but were stars? And how did that make an ML Carr feel, or a Henderson feel, or a DJ feel? Or, I always wondered that, or a Robert Parrish feel. And then as for the other players for the Lakers, the thought of going to Boston and enduring pretty upfront and outward racism at the time, and did that play into the rivalry, and at least through their eyes, or was it just about the basketball? And anyhow, it's very, very intriguing, very insightful. You do, though, begin to realize just how the two central characters in this rivalry were very similar. You wouldn't have known it from afar, but Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, for all of their differences, including their race, have more in common than not.
The Magic and Bird documentary that preceded this, what is it, almost 10 years old now, was exceptional and looked at just that and in depth, the relationship that the two of them had moving forward.
Blown away when Bird got choked up when he heard about Magic, that was in. It wasn't just an exercise in looking back. It was in the moment. They have footage of it.
Yes, that he was in the locker room. I think it was
then he's on the
pregame,
floor
right?
in tears.
Yeah, that it's funny. You often hear former players. You talk about this even in high school. The grind and being in the locker room and sharing the moments with your team, or on a road trip, you're traveling from A to B.
Sure,
those are the things that many athletes take away from their times. It's not necessarily the 60 minutes they played, or in the NBA's case, the 48 minutes they played. But when you have a relationship of superstar and superstar who kind of understand each other in a way, even like their teammates couldn't understand what it was like.
Yeah.
But this other guy on the other side of the country that they grew up
who's
together,
trying to kick your ass.
Exactly. But he also is the only one that truly gets what it's like to be you in that moment.
Well, the weight of the world, they go from 29 wins to 61 in Bird's first year. Think about that. How good you have to be to turn a team around to that magnitude. And then obviously what Magic and you know what I do like? I like as time has gone on, and I'll give one of our cohorts here at ESPN Radio some credit for this. Ryan Russillo, obviously his favorite sport, if you listen to that show, is basketball, and that's kind of what ESPN uses him for, really more than anything else, is his expertise and insight in basketball.
Yeah, that's been a NBA/college football show.
That's
time
pretty much
slot
what it is,
for the last however long.
But one thing he's done that I agree with is really he's championed the fact that Magic Johnson deserves to be in the conversation as greatest player of all time. I mean, he always says, you know, we stop with Michael and LeBron, and occasionally somebody will mention Russell and Wilt, but how do we not mention Magic Johnson? And he talked about going to 9 finals and what he was for L.A., and his ability to play other positions and all of those things, and to be kind of a transcendent player at his position too. You had never seen a 6'9" point guard do what he was able to do. And you go back and watch that documentary, and one thing that stands out, just like it does in all sports, for as much as I love that era of basketball, and as skilled as a James Worthy was, or a Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, you name it, there's stars everywhere on those two teams, and they were all great. You could just see the evolution of the game, though. You know, it's striking, and we do this a lot in football. We certainly do it in baseball. And it's not to say that those guys, if given the modern approach to training, to diet, to sports-specific training and diet and year-round focus, wouldn't have been able to play now, because that's unfair, right? I mean, 6'9" with handles translates now. So you see that, right? Being a marksman translates now. Those skill sets still work today. But body type-wise, when you look at those players, and watching this documentary last night reminded me of this, where you see games where they're not facing each other. Just, you know, there's a highlight from the Celtics playing the Milwaukee Bucks, and you're looking at the guys on the floor. It's like your Uncle Ted's at the Y out there playing with a cigarette in his mouth. I mean, it's amazing to look how much different the athletes are today than they were then. And that's true across all sports, but because athletes in basketball aren't wearing a helmet and pads, you can really see it with them in the 80s compared to now. The athletes of today, that's why we always say it's unfair to try to compare and contrast. This team would play this team. Listen, any modern team would house a team from 1986. They just would. I mean, you take any of these guys who are built like they are now, and the game having evolved to where it has now, I'm not saying that the athlete of today or today's NBA player is smarter than the players from the 80s and 70s or understands the game better. No, I actually don't think that they do. But athletically, physically, they would run circles around those guys. It's crazy to look at. Now, the reason it's unfair is because if I go back in time and I'm able to tell Magic Johnson and James Worthy and Kevin McHale and Larry Bird, hey, listen, here's what you got to do. You kind of got to eat better at all times and train year-round and be in incredible shape. And you need to work out with weights, and you need to build up your strength, and you got to get your core stronger. And we're going to work on explosive movements. We're going to do some things differently. You know, we're going to get you on the Bosu, get you some balance. Those guys would then look like today's guys, and armed with their skill set, they would be able to play and probably be elite. But just as they were comprised then, looking at Kevin Durant, looking at those teams now, looking at Draymond Green, what he would have done to guys back then, it's crazy.
Well, that's the offseason was the offseason.
Yeah.
You know, that was the thing about it. You weren't always training, and maybe
you might have been doing the opposite of training.
Well, sure. yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It wasn't just that they weren't training. They were abusing themselves.
Yeah, well, but training camp was for getting back into shape. That was the whole point of training camp.
Sure.
It wasn't on, continuing what you were working on 2 months ago. That's in football. That's the case more than any other sport. I feel, because the sport is so short. The season is so short. But you see videos of guys doing their off-season workouts, the OTAs, and some that are team required and some that they do on their own. I remember when the NFL was having the labor problem. Remember Drew Brees was hosting games, and they were non-sanctioned by the NFL, but he was hosting practices of a bunch of players, and they wanted to get their work in on the side. I mean, that's something that never would have existed in the 70s or the 80s because the money wasn't that great either. like the money was much better than the average job. But you talk about, athletes' salaries compared to the average wage and what it was back in the 50s to the 80s, and then the explosion of television and all the money that's infused. There's so much more to lose now, so you have to be in perfect shape.
There is, and yes, to garner a paycheck, I was looking at NBA salaries, and the reason I was doing that is we were talking about how long Golden State stays together and what kind of cap room they're going to have in 2 and 3 years and what teams could add to try to get into the race. And I was just looking at those contract numbers, the $170 million, the $240 million, the $150 million. Yeah, I mean, to compete for those kinds of contracts, obviously you not only have to be the best of the best of the best within a league of incredible athletes, but you have to be a step even further. And those guys don't waste seconds in the day doing anything other than making sure their skills and their body is as refined as they could possibly be. So, yeah, you see freaks of nature, unlike what you're watching in the 80s and certainly the 70s. Now, and Dave writes this in because I thought about it last night too, and certainly we know the eras of basketball are very different beyond just body types and training. You could beat the hell out of people back in the day. And you could put your hands on them. You could hand check. That's how you could, you get in these conversations about what would Michael Jordan, what would Dominique Wilkins, what would any of the elite scorers from back in the day, what would they average in today's game where you can't touch people? Where you can't put your hand on Michael Jordan at the top of the key to try to guide him and have a feel for where he's going. If you had to just remain hands off and move laterally and cover him the way they ask NBA players to do that now, or it's a foul, what would he have averaged? I mean, it's crazy.
That's a fair counterpoint. I'm just looking at looked at top salaries in 1985 in the NBA, 84-85, and Magic Johnson made $2.5 million that year. Calculated the inflation, that would be akin to $5.8 million this year. And again, that's the best player in the world at that point, being paid the most. You talked about Spud Webb and the dunk contest. Spud Webb that season made $70,000 for the Atlanta Hawks. It's just incredible.
Which he was happier than hell to get.
Well, and again, I'm against the average salary. It's still way higher, but it's not the exponentially higher game. Like, you talk about endorsements, getting those deals, getting the Nike deal, or getting whatever the next level is.
Or max contract.
You're getting the Gatorade deal, and then getting the max contract. I mean, Paul George, is about to make a ton of money.
Yes, $170 million or thereabouts.
Paul George.
Yes,
I get
exactly.
it. He's being talked about as
a
somebody
nice player
that might help the Cavs get to to a place where maybe they can compete a little bit more with the Warriors. But Paul George, is he on your short list?
No.
Is he going to help you by himself when I think we just had it proved to us. He's going to get swept by the Cavs.
Well, and if you recall, I mean, we were appalled. There were guys that kind of really shrunk in the moment. Mr. Harden comes to mind with the thanks for the 2 points or whatever the hell that was.
All the salaries last year, guys making $18 to $25 million a year that you've never heard of in the NBA.
There are stiffs that make that.
And Magic Johnson, in today's dollars, would have made $5.8 million in the NBA. That's amazing.
Jeff, email, I'd love to see how Steph Curry would survive going into the paint under the 86 NBA rules. Exactly, right. It was a different game. And you see that on display, too, watching this documentary, right? You see, listen, there are fouls in this documentary. They show the famed Kevin McHale clothesline of Kurt Rambis. And it was a layup line prior to that. The Lakers are going up and down the floor. They played at such a fast pace. Really, the league was ill-equipped. That's why it was revolutionary. And because Magic's skill set was what it was, there was no way to slow that down. And the Celtics were embarrassed. And those players were getting humiliated until they decided that ain't happening. It's not gonna be a layup line. It was almost implied by the competitors. Bird basically called his team after a game a bunch of sissies. Used that word. And that was code for, we're not doing this anymore. The next guy that comes down the lane thinking he's going to dunk or lay it up is getting taken out. And that's exactly what they did. And it changed the series. It changed the series completely. They started clotheslining bitches. And guess what? It wasn't a flagrant. Nobody got kicked out. It was a foul. Go to the free throw line. So it was a different mentality, and there were different rules in place, and you could get away with that kind of stuff. I mean, for years, Jordan got beat to hell coming down the lane.
Yeah, imagine that thought process with three-point shooting and spot-up shooting.
Oh.
We're going to close out, and they're going to the ground. If they don't, I will punch
I'll put somebody else in who will.
I will punch you after the game.
So to me, yeah, sure, you do. When you compare and contrast eras and the quality of play and all that, it is awfully hard to do, and it's not ever really fair. Because, again, I dare say if you gave Magic and Bird the tools with what the modern athlete uses, and they grew up with the mindset of having to do that, work out year-round and do all those things, then they, too, would have freakish – well, maybe not Bird, but –
You'll wonder.
freakish bodies. I mean, he was able to excel without any of that. But, yeah, I mean, he was a freakish shooter with vision, and it was his passing.
He was evil, too.
Oh, they brought it up last night. One of the things you'll like, and I don't want to ruin it for you, that one of the reasons, and Dr. J rarely got in fights. Dr. J really didn't lose his cool all that often, but he flipped out on Larry Bird. It's a famous altercation. I didn't know this, but it was because Larry Bird was constantly talking to him, and that, at that point in their careers, Bird was a better player. And he came down the floor and told Dr. J, it's time to retire, old man. You're out here embarrassing yourself. Just like steady telling him how sorry he was.
But Larry Bird doesn't trash talk. He's the white guy.
No, he was the king of it, and actually really well respected for it. I mean, he was a master at trash talk. It's funny about him, too, in that that's another thing you'll like about the documentary and that I loved about it, is that just if you ball, you ball, and people, if you got game, you got game, and it doesn't really matter. But the steps that Larry took, like just not caring, just straight up ruthless in the way that he clowned people. If you go back, you can find on YouTube Larry just clowning people, having fun just to be an ass. It's completely unnecessary. It's not strategically relevant. It's just, I'm going to humiliate you now because I can. He passed the ball behind a guy's head. It's like the and one stuff. Just before and one. Just, you look like it. Get some of that. And then just talking the whole way back down the floor. You could see, I wonder how more guys didn't punch him.
You got to have some toughness to you because, if you can ball, you can ball. At the collegiate level, not the next level, but at the collegiate level, Grayson Allen can ball. But,
Oh, right, but
there are concerns about Grayson Allen.
It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Payments until football season. I'm telling you, in the over 30 years I've been in the car business, I've never seen such incentives and low prices. I've got pages and pages of special interest rates, rebates, and bonus cash. Kraft Nissan even has a factory rebate for any credit score under 625 to help you with your down payment. Here's the deal. Nissan is America's fastest growing car company, and they want to be number one, and they're buying market share. So please, before you buy, check out Kraft Nissan's exciting lineup of new vehicles. That's all I ask. Stop by Kraft Nissan and look. Kraft Nissan on Mahan Drive between Academy Sports and Costco. Price includes dealer preparation charge.
How's your car's air conditioner working? Could be better? Take it to Auto Super Service Center today for a comprehensive air conditioner service. It's just $49.99. Yep, just $49.99. Since 1980, Tallahassee's trusted name for auto repairs, service, and low prices has been Auto Super Service Center. There are 5 Tallahassee area Auto Super Service Center locations. Find the one nearest you at autosuperservicecenter.com and call for an appointment. $49.99 air conditioner service special is a limited time offer, so call today.
Hey, Wally Woodham here. In 1974, I set the national high school passing record at Leon High with 3,560 yards.
Jimmy Jordan here. Wally, I broke your passing record at Leon the very next year.
Well, Jimmy, in our 3 years together at FSU, I threw for 22 touchdown passes.
Wally, that's pretty good, but I had 39.
Well, Jimmy, look at the deal I got at AAA Transmission.
That's a pretty good deal, Wally. At least your car's a winner.
Don't put off your auto repairs. Stop in at AAA Transmission and ask for owner Tim Pridgeon, servicing Tallahassee for over 30 years. AAA Transmission, 1023 North Monroe Street, or call them at 222-2532.
Look at that mouth. That poor, parched mouth. So dry. What'd you eat for lunch? Chalk dust? Did your mouth cannonball into a barrel of mothballs? You're being awfully quiet. Is that because your mouth feels like the business end of a Dremel saw? Is it because your mouth just wrote a haiku and all 17 syllables were dry heaves? You're so parched. You know it. I know it. The entire radio knows it. Just admit it. You want a Mountain Dew. Your mouth feels like it just inhaled the insides of a punching bag, and the only remedy is that neon green potion. Right now, your mouth could be tongue bathing in the refreshing citrus kick of Mountain Dew. Instead, it feels like you've been motorboating King Tut's sarcophagus. Show some mercy. Crack open an ice-cold Mountain Dew. You know your mouth wants you to. Do the Dew.
Don't miss Dew Days today at Country Corner Shell, located on the corner of Appalachian Parkway and Capitol Circle Southeast, next to Dairy Queen. Great prices on all Dew products from noon to 6 only. All 12-packs are just $1.99, and all Kickstart singles for only 59 cents. It's today only, noon to 6 at Country Corner Shell.
Calling all dads. Edwin Watts Golf Shops knows what you really want for Father's Day. New golf gear. Pick up the Bushnell Tour V4 Shift, Pro X2, or the Neo Ion GPS watch, now each $50 off. And score 2 dozen Wilson Duo golf balls for just $30. Try the hottest drivers on the market like the TaylorMade M1 and M2 or the Callaway Epic. Hard to shop for dad? Gift cards are available in any amount. And if your gift isn't up to par, you'll have 90 days to exchange it. Edwin Watts has you covered, Dad.
Did you know that June is National Rose Month, National Camping Month, National Great Outdoors Month, and at TNT Supercenter in Thomasville, June is Make Your Own Golf Cart and Get It Delivered Free Month. This month at TNT Supercenter, with any golf cart purchase of at least $2,500, they will deliver your cart for free within a 50-mile radius of the store, and you'll also get $500 worth of free Mad Jacks accessories. Choose from hundreds of items in the Mad Jacks catalog, including rear seat kits, light kits, lift kits, wheels, tires, you name it, Mad Jacks has it. New carts, pre-owned carts, club cars, Yamaha, and the very cool Star EV carts. If you like the sound of that, you will love the sound of a 4-year warranty on loaded brand new carts, starting at just $49.99. Trade-ins are welcome, and TNT Supercenter is offering financing with 0 down, and when you buy a club car, 0% with approved credit, plus free delivery within a 50-mile radius. TNT Supercenter, US 19 South, next to Dairy Queen in Thomasville, and online at TNTSupercenter.com.
Listen up. Dad is the man, and Beefs has a plan. Get to Beef O'Brady's on Father's Day. Buy a meal of equal or greater value, and he'll eat for free. So this Sunday, beef up Father's Day at participating locations. See Beefs for details.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Man, Saturday at 8 o'clock, can't get here fast enough. Can't get here fast enough. I should not say that. That's not what you do in the middle of a radio show, right?
Does feel like a Thursday, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I missed Monday. And yet I'm still sitting here like, what in the world? Well, I'm just so excited. I couldn't have expressed that more abundantly clear than on yesterday's show for this game. I know that, it's funny. Our brains tend to manipulate our memories in ways that kind of skew what actually happened in the years that go by. You end up with a completely different memory than what was in reality. The result or the score or whatever it might be that you're talking about. I know there have been teams, I guess what I'm getting at, I know there have been really good teams that were playing really well when the postseason started in the past for Florida State going into the College World Series. I know that's happened because I can remember us dominating regionals, especially when it was just a regional. You didn't have the two different regionals. You had one 16 regional. There were regionals that you go back and look at, and Florida State beat the hell out of people before getting out to Omaha. And I know that. I'm aware of that. And yet, in my mind, this feels like the first time in forever that I feel like we're on a real roll going into the College World Series. And even that is kind of just what I want to be the case, because it's ignoring the fact that we lost the first game of the regional to Tennessee Tech, or that we were one strike away from being eliminated by a pretty average Auburn team. But in my mind, I just feel like it feels as if the forward momentum is overwhelming for Florida State going into Omaha this time around.
Well, it's that it comes from so many places, and that's where, to me, I point to my hope, my personal hope going into this College World Series. And I think back to the Posey teams. I saw a listener pointed that out yesterday. Jeff, this is the way I felt about the Buster Posey teams, because how many big home runs did that dude hit?
Every day,
every time you needed one, every time you had to have
Never
it,
seen
he
a player
delivered.
like it. I saw all of J.D. Drew's career, and I saw all of Buster Posey's career, and I saw all of John Ford Griffin's career, and other elite, incredible hitters. Right? J.D. Drew's the best season I've ever seen anybody have in college baseball, but he was not more, for lack of a better term, to be sure, clutch. I hate that term, but you get it. Nobody hit a home run almost on command as frequently as Buster Posey did when you had to have it. I swear, you would say, gosh, if we could just get three guys on, I know we're down 4, but if Posey comes up, he'll hit a grand slam, and he would. Like, it's every time. It was nuts.
To me, it's the fact that you have so many different players contributing, whether they be the pitchers like a Will Zierzow type performance, or what Parrish brought to the table against North Carolina and getting 3 strikeouts with the bags loaded in the ACC tournament, or that Stephen Wells has a couple of huge hits, one of which was against Tennessee Tech in the Sunday matinee game before we played Auburn in the night game. That J.C. Flowers is the guy that has the ball go off his arm for the walk-off hit by pitch with the bags loaded.
Right.
I mean, everybody on this team along the way, along this run, has contributed something in a key moment. And to me, those are the teams that I feel are teams of destiny, because it's not that they're riding a hot streak of one superstar player. I mean, I can remember, when the Bucks won the title in 2002. If it wasn't Sapp, then it was Simeon Rice. If it wasn't Rice, then it was Derek Brooks. If it wasn't Brooks, it was Rondé Barber or Brian Kelly, Dexter Jackson in the Super Bowl, Dwight freaking Smith. I mean, it came from all different angles, and it's the strength and numbers thing. And I just like the way this team is pitching. It's 3 and 4 deep in terms of guys that can go 4 and 5 innings at a time. And then the lineup has had big contributions from, yes, the middle of its order. Busby, Luke, and Neaporti have all had their times when they've gone nuts. But the bottom of the order, Henderson's turned in some big at-bats. Mendoza's driven in some big runs as a true freshman. Flowers has gotten better. So, yeah, that's why, to me, I'm excited. It's not about one dude on a mission. It's about a whole bunch of guys playing really good baseball all at the same time.
I think the other reason that it feels, and you're right, but I also think the other reason it feels like a more overwhelming form of momentum right now for this team going into Omaha is because when they had moments to achieve something of significance, they did so resoundingly so. So, for example, when they get into the ACC championship game, they win 7-3. They get the 2 home runs from Mendoza. They get out of a jam. They're trailing early. But eventually, they basically kick North Carolina's ass. All right? So they win that game going away. When they had a chance to put away Auburn, they win 6-0. Auburn's never really in the game. It's the performance of a lifetime. Now, granted, along the way, they had to win in 10 innings prior to that and stay alive, keep their season alive and all that. But when the moment to clinch happened, they did. And then when they could clinch the Super Regional, 19-0. So whenever they've had a chance to put a stamp on a season during the signature moments where you could bring home hardware or it was the catalyst to the next big achievement, such as going to the College World Series, they haven't just won. They didn't make us sit there and, bite our nails down to the nub. They beat the hell out of people when they had to. When they needed a chance to, when they had the chance to win, they won, and they won big. And that maybe feels like this team possesses a little bit more chutzpah. A little bit, hey, the lights are shining brightest. What do you do? Oh, well, we kick ass. That's what we do. 6-0, 7-3, and 19-0.
I agree. I look at it from the other perspective, but I totally agree. It's those moments that led up to the ass kickings. Those are the ones.
Oh, no. Yeah, listen, it's not lost on me that without those, the moments, the ass kickings, the aforementioned ass kickings never happened. So maybe just marrying those two things is what we're talking about. Sure.
They're not afraid either way.
Right.
They're
That's
not
what we're
afraid
getting
to
at.
take it, but they're not afraid to go get it when the chips are down too.
They battle. They battle.
I mean, they're down 5-1 against Sam Houston State on Saturday, and they fight back because of self-inflicted wounds too. It's not just something where Sam Houston State all of a sudden, runs into a walk, a bloop, and a blast, and there's 3-0. No, these are self-inflicted wounds. I mean, Holton makes a couple of errors. Then you got base running issues, and you got covering bag issues, and you're not playing the bunt the way you should be playing the bunt. That's the one thing that Sam Houston State does. But you say, screw that. We're not losing today. And there's something to that, too. So it's not just like they're steamrolling everybody all of a sudden the last 3 weeks, and you haven't seen them play a close game or overcome a tense moment. I mean, a lot of these guys are delivering big hits or getting big outs in big moments, and they're not afraid of the moment. And there are big moments to come. And will they be afraid on Saturday? I don't think so. That's what the track record says this last 3 weeks.
Yeah, they I think the problem you have where you get nervous no matter what is the fact that it's baseball. And look, you allow for the fact that baseball can be baseball, that you can, in the middle of all this, of winning 18 of your last 21 games, right? That's so rare that you're 18-3 over a 21-game stretch, and yet they did lose to Tennessee Tech 3-1, the first game of a regional, because baseball's baseball. If somebody's pitching well on a given day, and certainly the Alex Lang kid who LSU is going to start he's pitched exceptionally well in the second half of the season. He's kind of become the guy for them. And obviously we're going to throw Tyler Holton.
He's a first-round pick.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at these two guys, and just as it pertains to college baseball, they've both had great seasons, and he's pitched really well lately. And they're 48-17. They've won 16 games in a row, Tom.
16 in a row.
Yeah, I told you LSU, other than Oregon State, is that I said that's kind of who I didn't really want to play.
Well, they're due, buddy.
True. I'm not.
They're playing that SEC schedule too, man. Come on now.
I'm not competing, obviously, but I'd like to play. I said at the time, give me Florida, give me somebody else who right now just isn't playing at that high a level. LSU comes in this thing steamrolling.
Let me ask you this question. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours yesterday. If you could face Florida in the best of three, let's suppose something that we shouldn't be supposing, but that we get through our side of the bracket and we get to the best of three. Would you want to play Florida, not knowing the outcome, or would you want to play someone else?
I want to play Florida.
All right. Because either way, whatever happens in that series is either going to be the highest of highs or the lowest of lows if it got to that point where it was Florida State for the title. First College World Series for either program, given what we've gone through. We're playing Florida the last few years.
This is funny. I do want that. I would love to see it. I'd love to kick their ass to win a national championship and add to the heartbreak. But
it's because you're a winner. Winners want the ball. Winners want to shove it down your throat.
But let me say this. As somebody who cannot compete in the contest and was never good enough to even sniff college baseball, but I gotta say that will be a series I will have a hard time watching. As a fan, as just
maybe you should watch that one in private. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh, just sitting here talking about it gives me the heebie-jeebies. We're so far removed from it, though. We got to beat LSU, and they're on a 16-game winning streak. So let's worry about LSU, Tom. Let's just worry about LSU and hope, maybe that TCU takes care of business. I'm not saying that
people hear what they want to hear. I'm not saying that we're making it to the next round. We're making it out of this half of the bracket. No. I'm just saying if that did happen, who would you want?
Well, Florida has to get there too, and they're not exactly playing great right now. So we'll see. I mean, okay. Let's do this before we sign off for the hour and before we get into the next hour. Would I prefer that be the matchup? No, I'd like them to go 2-Q. I'd like to see Florida just lose their first 2 games and get the hell up out of here. But would I embrace the heck out of the idea of Florida State, Florida in a championship? Oh, buddy. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, right? Nobody we could play that's in this tournament could bring about the level of intensity and enthusiasm and nerves as a Florida State, Florida national championship game. That goes for both sides. Both sides are thinking it. They are right now. They're like, ooh, yeah, that'd be great. But why don't you guys just go ahead and lose?
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Pensacola Street and 5032 Capitol Circle Southwest. Visit them online at myhobbitonline.com.
Hey, Wally Woodham here. In 1974, I set the national high school passing record at Leon High with 3,560 yards.
Jimmy Jordan here. Wally, I broke your passing record at Leon the very next year.
Well, Jimmy, in our 3 years together at FSU, I threw for 22 touchdown passes.
Wally, that's pretty good, but I had 39.
Well, Jimmy, look at the deal I got at AAA Transmission.
That's a pretty good deal, Wally. At least your car's a winner.
Don't put off your auto repairs. Stop in at AAA Transmission and ask for owner Tim Pridgeon, servicing Tallahassee for over 30 years. AAA Transmission, 1023 North Monroe Street, or call them at 222-2532.
If you're struggling to pay or haven't been making your student loan payments, listen carefully to this urgent alert. Have you been out of school for 10 or more years and you're still making your student loan payments? Are your student loans past due or even in default? Can't go back to school because of an old student loan problem? We can help you if you qualify. Your student loans can be taken out of default. We can stop the wage garnishments, stop the collection calls, and stop the seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and see if we can help you reduce your student loan payments. One quick 10-minute call could solve them right now. So call the Student Loan Helpline now. 800-419-2201. 800-419-2201. 800-419-2201. That's 800-419-2201. This is a fee-based document preparation service to help you access free government programs. Call for complete details, not available in all states.
Look at that mouth. That poor, parched mouth. So dry. What'd you eat for lunch? Chalk dust? Did your mouth cannonball into a barrel of mothballs? You're being awfully quiet. Is that because your mouth feels like the business end of a Dremel saw? Is it because your mouth just wrote a haiku and all 17 syllables were dry heaves? You're so parched. You know it. I know it. The entire radio knows it. Just admit it. You want a Mountain Dew. Your mouth feels like it just inhaled the insides of a punching bag, and the only remedy is that neon green potion. Right now, your mouth could be tongue bathing in the refreshing citrus kick of Mountain Dew. Instead, it feels like you've been motorboating King Tut's sarcophagus. Show some mercy. Crack open an ice-cold Mountain Dew. You know your mouth wants you to. Do the Dew.
Don't miss Dew Days tomorrow at Country Corner Shell, located on the corner of Appalachian Parkway and Capitol Circle Southeast, next to Dairy Queen. Great prices on all Dew products from noon to 6 only. All 12-packs are just $1.99, and all Kickstart singles for only 59 cents. Thursday only from noon to 6 at Country Corner Shell.
Might I suggest the chicken taco salad from Bandito's Burritos, my friend?
Broadcasting live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios. This is 97.9 ESPN Radio, WTSM, Woodville, Thomasville, Tallahassee. Tallahassee Sports Center.
I'm Lee Gordon. It's all about Omaha for the Florida State Seminoles. Florida State making its 22nd trip to Omaha, looking for that first College World Series crown. They get underway Saturday night against LSU. Well, it's never too early to talk Seminole football. ESPN's Mitch Sherman included a pair of Florida State players in his list of the best edge rushing tandems in the country. Josh Sweat and Brian Burns have made that list. Well, we all know college athletes like to make a little money from time to time, and UCF kicker Donald De La Haye has decided YouTube is the way to go. He's got a very popular channel, but in his most recent video, he says the school has asked him to stop making money off his videos to preserve his amateur status. And the Golden State Warriors are celebrating their championship with a parade today. As for the story they won't visit the White House, the Warriors say that decision is still up in the air.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free. Always, don't miss anything. If you do, remember we got you covered. All 3 hours going to be posted both on iTunes and in our own audio vault. And when you go, you'll note that there are limited commercials. That's a good thing. It's all part of our podcast sponsorship by Carlton Dean, carltondean.com, and the fine folks at SVN. Let you know about commercial real estate, how to make money in income-producing properties, all that good stuff. Go to carltondean.com to learn more. You can email the show if you want, jcs@979espnradio.com. Find me on Twitter, @JCameronShow, WTSM app. Works for your mobile devices. And, of course, you can watch the show being performed on YouTube by going to ESPN Tallahassee. That's the feed. You'll find us there. You go ahead and subscribe to that, and you're hooked up at the beginning of every day, 3 o'clock, and you can watch all of that play out. In the interim, we count down to the U.S. Open starting tomorrow. FSU's in camp, so there are stars of the future that Jimbo Fisher is keeping a close eye on. By the way, that picture is funny, Tom. I saw it during the break. I'm sure people are noting the black helmet with the tomahawk on it that Justin Fields is wearing while warming up, and Jimbo Fisher staring, looking on, because I guess this could be a what them kids doing. But in looking at that, I thought, you know how nerve-wracking that would be to have that guy, not just because it's his camp and he's the head coach at Florida State, but a former quarterback and quarterback coach. If ever there's a position on the field he's watching intently and making notes about every movement you make, it's going to be quarterback.
The one thing I would say, though, is that Fields holds all the cards right now because he recently decommitted from, I think it was Penn State, but he is, the top quarterback on the board, and he's doing a tour of the Southeast. He was in Auburn yesterday,
right?
Tallahassee today, and then maybe he's heading down to Bradenton to tour the IMG Academy. So, maybe it's Florida on the way in too. So maybe he's thinking, oh boy, here's Jimbo Fisher, and I'd like to make a good impression on a guy who could do a lot for my career. Or maybe he's thinking, well, let's show him what I can do, and let's see how hard he's going to come recruit me, because the rest of the world is too.
It's the latter. There's no way he's in that position at this camp being the star that he is if he doesn't think about it that way. You're absolutely right. He's probably thinking, well, sure, you guys would love to reel me in, but we'll see. Here's a little pretty throw for you.
I'm just in shorts and a T-shirt, no big
I'm
deal.
just out here chucking it around. Don't mind me.
What's this helmet for at all anyway?
I think it's interesting that the mindset of guys that come to camp. And it's hard for me, just as somebody who, I don't hate recruiting. I get how important it is. But, when you're talking about guys that are going to be on your team 2 years from now, I just don't get all that excited because so much can happen. But I should probably pay closer attention in this sense. This staff, Jimbo Fisher and his staff, have had the opposite approach to recruiting that Bobby Bowden and his staff had for all those years. And the way I used to view it was that, well, come signing day, the real magic is going to be unveiled. But the real magic is now, because these guys get commitments from kids well in advance. And they're able to hold those commitments for the most part. Sure, there are guys that decommit. Sure, there are kids that you thought you had, and then at the last second they have a change of heart. But by and large, when they've zeroed in on a kid and they've offered and they've gotten a commitment from a kid early in the process, that kid is they've been able to procure that, hold on to it. And it's a different method of recruiting. It's one that takes the drama out of it, but it's certainly one worth noting because, hell, you can start to look at your team makeup well in advance and pretty much lock it in.
They've got a couple of kids in the works, and that's, Bailey Hockman and James Blackman that are now, going to be on campus for fall camp. Hockman was already here, obviously, for spring ball. That they like as perhaps projects and guys that might develop into, starting quarterback here at Florida State. But Malik Henry was the last big-name quarterback recruit that Florida State reeled in, and he was supposed to be the future of the program and, the quarterback of 2018, 2019, if not competing for the starting job right here, right now to start out the 2017 season, because that would have been his second spring camp and all that stuff. So I wonder, is this going to be the guy? Is this the guy that, is a 4 or 5 star, depending upon the recruiting service, that Fisher is able to land? Because now we're looking at 2018 and 2019 saying, okay, Francois is fine right now. We don't have any problem about what he was as a redshirt freshman and the projections that we are likely to enjoy and watch the next couple of years. But what's the future of the position going to be? And this camp might be something that goes a long way in determining that.
It's interesting. You broach a subject that I'm sure we're going to get into as we move forward and we get closer and closer to the start of the season. But I do think it's interesting that amongst the Florida State faithful, there is somewhat of a debate about what Francois is. There is no debate about his toughness. There is no debate in Florida State circles about how much he is respected and liked. I think that's universal. I think even his detractors respect and like DeAndre Francois. I don't mean like as in, hey, you're my friend. I mean like his toughness, like his work ethic, like his dedication, like certain elements of his game. There's just certainly anything that involves getting off the mat, that guy does it. It's the argument about what his ceiling can be. Like, what is he going to be a year from now? What is he going to be this year? That's the debate amongst Florida State fans, because there are those that say that you can't really teach accuracy, and he has an accuracy problem. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It'd be great of me to sit here and probably behoove me to say that, you know what? Nope. He's gonna be more accurate. You can teach that. I've never played quarterback in my life. I've never coached quarterback in my life, and I haven't spent an extended period of time talking to quarterback coaches. So if you come into college and you are good but not great with accuracy, and I think that's a fair assessment of Francois. He does have limitations there. He certainly did last year. Has too many moments where he misses the wide open guy in the intermediate pass, right? That's the real problem. Can that get better? Can that get improved upon? Well, I would think through better footwork, the answer to that is yes. And through a greater understanding of perhaps the offense or where you're going with the football pre-snap. That would improve accuracy. It would allow you to relax and be more accurate. I think Jimbo Fisher has made reference to that before too. If that's the case, then he's going to become more accurate, and we're going to see a natural progression from a good starting place, a good launching point, which was last year's season, to by the time he's a junior, we'll look upon him as pretty elite. Is he elite yet? No. Was he a very good quarterback for a redshirt freshman? I thought so. Was he a guy that you would say, hey, someday has a chance to, I don't know, win a Heisman or something? No, I don't think so. But he's a good college quarterback. I think he's going to be a very good college quarterback.
Was he healthy the whole year?
That we don't know either. And I don't know. I mean, certainly we know he suffered through injury. I think what's key is to find out whether or not his throwing shoulder, if he had problems with his ankle or his knee or any of those, his ribs, sure.
Pain's hard to shut off, though. No matter where it comes from, if it's something that nags you, it's something you think about at some point. Yeah, I mean, as tough as he is,
yeah, it affects your
human
emotion,
being.
Sure.
And to steal a word from the baseball program, and I suppose that's appropriate in College World Series week. Where does poise end, and where does an accuracy problem begin? Where does the growth and maturity of a quarterback end, and what that development can be, and then just plain I see somebody open or I see somebody breaking and I can't hit the spot begin. That's hard because, like you, I haven't coached quarterbacks.
No.
I haven't seen development of quarterbacks, but one would think common sense would tell you that as somebody becomes more comfortable on the concepts of the offense, and heaven forbid they can block it up for him so he feels a little bit more comfortable in the pocket, that would at least allow him the opportunity to prove to us whether he truly has an accuracy problem or not. I think there's a lot going on last year to say blanket statement one way or the other that he is an inaccurate quarterback or he has accuracy issues versus he's still growing. There's just there was a lot going on, and redshirt freshman should be the first one that you list.
I concur. I think for a redshirt freshman, he played very well. There is never a question about toughness and heart and all that stuff. And I think even his detractors admit that, and they speak in glowing terms about who Deondre Francois is, the leader, the worker, all those things, the competitor. I don't know the answer, and I am intrigued because we're going to find out a lot this year. They're going against some very good defenses right off the bat. I mean, you're going to see a good defense when Miami comes to town. You're going to see a good defense when NC State comes to town, in particular up front. And if we have any problem with an offensive line, obviously needless to say Alabama is going to be a good defense. Pretty much they were against everybody not named Clemson or Ole Miss last year. They put up great numbers. So you're gonna see that. So he'll get tests right off the bat, and we'll know that there's growth or there isn't. There are accuracy improvements or there isn't. I think it's a fascinating discussion, and I'm open for it. I'll allow for the fact it could be that that's a problem, but I also think that there's a good chance he improves on those things, even marginally. And if he just does so a little bit, and he falls into the category of being a 60 to 62% passer, and he doesn't miss the open intermediate throw. He did do too much of that last year. There were times where he just missed guys you can't miss, and that puts you in a down and distance problem, which leads to sacks and pressure and predictability. He can help himself out also, I might add, by getting rid of the damn ball. Now, that was my biggest criticism with him last year, is that, and I understand Jimbo's going to tell you that's not always on the quarterback. Sure, sometimes it is on receivers. Sometimes it is on tight ends and running backs. I got you. Sometimes it's on the quarterback holding on to the ball. Now, that's part of the thing that's endearing about him, by the way, is that he is so tough that he'd rather hang in there to the last second and let a player break open or a play develop fully and take a shot and wait to the last second to make that throw. But you also set yourself up to get killed and to get hurt, and he's not a big guy. You got to get rid of the ball. And I hope in that area he does improve, and I think he will, because I got to believe he's going to be that much more comfortable within the offense this year than he was a year ago.
Well, to approach it from the forest view versus the tree view, now that we're in June, just to, because I know that on Mondays or Tuesdays we may fall into this trap even, but yes, you're right. Consider 3 of the first 4 defensive lines that we're going to face. There's a lot to sort out. Like, even if Francois, just for argument's sake, does not play well in 2 of those first 3 games.
You're going against great defensive lines, right?
Well, where does one stop and the other begin? That's why football is the ultimate team game, and sometimes it's hard to sort out everything in instantaneous fashion. So where are the receivers in their development? That's a primary question going into camp this year and going into the beginning of the season. I mean, can a group of Tate, Gavin, and Murray really carry the day?
Gavin's got to, man. I don't trust Tate or Murray to be the consistent receiver from a route running standpoint and just the consistency of well, I got to be careful. I would rather put my eggs in the Keith Gavin basket. I'm not saying that you don't have a potential superstar in Naquan Murray making superstar-like plays, and I'm not saying there aren't moments when Auden Tate's size can really come into play and you can exploit a matchup. I think Keith Gavin has superstar first-round pick written over him. I mean, that's a guy that body type, good luck, right? If he's locked in and he gets it and he knows what the hell he's doing, I think he's a star.
Okay, well, let's just say it's some good, some bad for 3 of those first 4 games. How much can the tight end position make up for that with Izzo and perhaps Maven Saunders, who's kind of his own unicorn because he's still learning the game of football? But
he showed signs last year, though.
With that body type, if he ever is
it's
trusted
time,
enough.
Though, right? It's time.
I think that the bigger thing is if he's ever trusted enough to be put on the field in those situations, what can he do? Okay, now you've got Dalvin Cook last year, no Dalvin Cook this year. What kind of a gap is that? I understand you're losing a superstar, so there's always going to be a drop-off. But realistically speaking, from a production standpoint, what can Jaquez Patrick and Cam Akers bring to the table to close that gap?
Don't forget about Amir Rasul, who, by the way, I think is going to surprise a lot of people if healthy.
Okay, so what can those 3 backs bring to the table to mitigate the loss of Dalvin Cook? That's another question that you got to sort out before you can really talk about how much a team respects the pass or the run and what DeAndre Francois is going to see as a quarterback. Then you got the big question, the offensive line.
Well, that's the
How
biggest
is that
question.
handle it?
It's the biggest question we have. It really is. And there is no way to right now project with any degree of certainty what that group is going to play like. We know about what they are potentially. We know that many of them are part of that class that we were so excited about that featured big-time offensive line recruits saying yes to Florida State, and we felt like finally we're making that kind of concerted effort to bring in the big stars up in the big boys up front. But many of them have never had to play in big moments. Many of them have not had to start. Certainly none of them have had to play against the likes of an Alabama. So that's just hard to know. And I know that the jaded amongst our fan base are assuming immediately that offensive line is not going to be up to snuff and not perform well, and they've had evidence in the past to feel that way. They also, unfortunately, that group largely ignores when we do play well up front, and there are moments that we absolutely do play well up front. So I'm not going to assume one way or the other that they're going to be bad or good. I'm not real sure. And I am a bit sheepish. I'm not emboldened by what I see, but I'm also not going to bed at night thinking we got no shot. I think that the game does come down to that. Speaking of the Alabama game, I think we're a better team at the end of the year than we're going to be at the beginning of the year for a lot of reasons, one of which is that offenses take some time, especially when you're breaking in receivers that you're now asking to be the guy when they haven't had to be the guy. So I worry about all of that leads to me worrying about this first game, as I would be anyhow, because it's Alabama. If everything were lined up perfectly, we'd still be concerned because it's Alabama. But those areas concern me the most early on.
Right. So the short answer to that is in your first 4 games, it's really going to be hard to know unless things go great. At which point, then you do know. Then you go, okay, well, check all these boxes off. But if there are moments that players struggle, you may be able to look at the film and say, well, on this play was the offensive line, or this play was a receiver ran a wrong route, or this play Francois just clean missed a guy, airmailed it and threw a pick.
Well, that's when we will know. I mean, if he misses guys that are wide open, Tom, if we still see some of that, I'm not saying the occasional missed throw. Every quarterback in football misses a throw. Tom Brady misses a throw occasionally, but the good ones miss them far less than the guys that are just middling or even labeled as pretty good.
Yeah, but think about it. There's so much to sort out now. I mean, there's a lot to sort out. Every position group, save for maybe the tight end position with Ryan Izzo. I mean, maybe he's the most consistent year-to-year player that you say, okay, I know what I get.
He's straight up good, yeah.
I know what I have in that player. You know, the backfield is, I mean, even Freddie Stevenson's gone. My man Thunder. So who's going to be leading the way for Patrick or Rasul or Akers? Who's that going to be? What's your starting 5 of the offensive line? Can you trust the receivers? And then what is DeAndre Francois really? You got questions everywhere on offense. Not that all teams
And it's not that you don't have answers. If you look, I mean, we think we have some answers to those questions. We just don't know yet, right? I mean, in terms of talent.
Well, and how does one affect the other? When we see a group struggle, is it because the receivers weren't running the right routes, which is one of Jimbo's favorite refrains when things aren't going well? Is it because the line's not blocking? Is it because that DeAndre's not checking us into the right protections? Did a running back miss a hole? I mean, you've got to ask fundamental questions about all position groups this year in a way that you haven't had to in years past. With Jameis, you knew things were going to be okay. In 13, you knew the offensive line was going to be all right. These last couple of seasons, you knew Dalvin was going to take care of business and erase some problems. But this year, who's going to do all of those things?
All right, so what I will say is these are good questions to ask, and good answers are out there. Because if Cole Minshew's healthy, right, they love him if he's healthy, right? He's probably playing left guard at that point. Josh Ball is an area of concern, not because he can't play, but because he hasn't had to. He's a redshirt freshman going against Alabama in game 1 at left tackle. That's an area of concern, but it doesn't mean we don't have an answer for it. Who's the center? Seems like this is the annual question. Hey. This is the Tom Lane question of the day in and day out. But is it Alec Eberle, who's had a ton of playing time, but maybe we think is limited physically, whereas Bavion Johnson hasn't had the playing time, but isn't as limited physically. And he had a good spring, and that was a good sign. Landon Dickerson, who is coming off of an injury, but is the guy moving forward at right guard, and you feel very good about him. I guess the only sure thing we do know is that obviously that is going to be Rick Leonard at right tackle. We don't think it's going to be Brock Rubel. So, again, it's not that those guys can't play. It's not that they're not talented, but a few of them haven't had to play in these big moments, haven't had to be the guy, and are now going to be the guy, and they have to be it against Alabama in week 1.
You're right. You reminded me in the next 4 to 6 weeks, I'm going to have those middle-of-the-night sweat fests. I'm going to wake up and go, oh, my God.
Who the hell is starting at center?
Who's our center? We need a center. Brian Stork, please disguise yourself.
I will also tell you that I guess we've largely ignored whether or not we think George Campbell is ever going to emerge as a dependable receiver.
I think we described him as a bonus if he were to.
I mean, some things can work out. If George Campbell comes to the party with that skill set, obviously you've got a talented, deep wide receiver core. I need those guys. Lawrence Dossie, I'm looking at you, baby. So's Jimbo. I mean, this is going to be an intense fall camp. That group's got to get right, and now, because they're super talented. But we can't have this slapdick effort out there running routes where you don't know where you're going and all that nonsense.
Let's just hope that they're all working voluntarily with DeAndre Francois
right now. This very second. I agree. And through the night. And again, early tomorrow morning. And then in the underground bunker, the team meets and we go through an official practice that's off the books. Let's get it on.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin, Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Bulbs that can last for more than 10 years. It's only $79.97. See? You're already saving. Switch to more energy-efficient LED lighting, fixtures, and ceiling fans only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
Wonder what the outrageously energizing experience of Mountain Dew Kickstart is like? Well, it's like a combo of 3 awesome things. Dew, juice, and caffeine, rebooting your entire personal operating system.
Mountain Dew Kickstart is in position for consumption. All systems cleared for launch. Initiate launch sequence. T-minus 3, 2, 1, mark. Release the Mountain Dew Kickstart. Mountain Dew Kickstart released. Experiencing a charge of Mountain Dew Kickstart now.
Mountain Dew Kickstart operation successful.
You are now off the couch and out exploring the world.
Roger that.
Get charged up for what's coming next anytime, anywhere with Mountain Dew Kickstart. Available in 10 energizing flavors like mango lime, raspberry citrus, midnight grape, and orange citrus. Mountain Dew Kickstart. Fuel with flavor.
Don't miss Dew Days tomorrow at Country Corner Shell, located on the corner of Appalachian Parkway and Capitol Circle Southeast, next to Dairy Queen. Great prices on all Dew products from noon to 6 only. All 12-packs are just $1.99, and all Kickstart singles for only 59 cents. Thursday only from noon to 6 at Country Corner Shell.
Hi everyone, this is Gabe Grass, founder of Grasslands Brewing Company. You and your friends are invited for a night of celebration at Grasslands Taproom on June 29th from 6 to 10 p.m. as we finally started brewing on our production system and we're ready to distribute our kegs to a bar or restaurant near you. There will be live music by Tuesday Supper Club on the Garages on Games patio, brewery tours, food pairings by St. Ever's Sausage House, and of course, Grasslands core beers and special releases just for the occasion. It's because of you that we've come this far, and we're extremely thankful. Come celebrate with us on the 29th. Prost.
Parker Brothers Roofing says don't play games with your roof. Protect your home and your family. The Parker Brothers tell you the truth. We'll fix your roof, 'cause it's what we do. With quality, integrity, and pride. Parker Brothers Roofing, professional every time. Stay safe and dry inside.
Customers constantly tell us that they're getting several estimates to compare apples to apples. You ever bite into an apple and find out the inside is rotten? Cheap roofing quotes are just like that rotten apple. Quote looks shiny and delicious because it's the cheapest, right? But you wind up with that rotten apple that leaks or starts to fail immediately. All roofing quotes are not equal. Cheap estimates equal cheap materials, subpar labor, or both. For quality that lasts, call us at 656-8112.
Parker Brothers Roofing, professional every time. Stay safe and dry inside.
License number CCC 049350.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show. Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
You know, every year now that right around the time, not right around, as soon as the NBA season is over, you're safe to assume, you're safe to guess that nationally on, in particular, ESPN's airwaves, you're going to get the larger discussion about what has to happen to save baseball. Heard it twice today. I mean, how can baseball not be doing well right now? I mean, they've got everything they could possibly want. They've got a superstar, young talent on the most visible franchise in sports, the New York Yankees. They've got a young Babe Ruth. Aaron Judge has got 22 home runs, was a Triple Crown leader going into last night, or within a percentage point of batting average of being a Triple Crown leader, which, by the way, he is. And if you haven't been paying attention to baseball, understandably, some people all into basketball and then, of course, the NBA Finals. Maybe you haven't noticed, but the Yankees are in first place, and they have a superstar, and that can only be good, right, for baseball, one would think. that the most notable franchise, most famous franchise, is 38-23 in first place, 3.5 games up on Boston. You might not know either, by the way, that the Rays are 3 games over 500. But it's pretty crazy to think that that's the case, right? That Aaron Judge and the Yankees are in first place, and this idea that if that's not enough to save baseball, what would? You know, could you put Mike Trout on the Yankees, and would that be enough to save baseball? We always hear that if he were the face of baseball where people could see him, it would. But again, if you go and look at the local cable numbers, market by market, you will see that these teams are making a killing, and baseball is as vibrant as ever. It's just not the national pastime anymore, but it hasn't been the national pastime in a long time.
No, I mean, the summer
Football has far surpassed baseball and has for a long, long time. So that's no longer really even a discussion. That's just a known.
The summer of '98 was a summer. You know, it wasn't something that brought people back to watching baseball and baseball first. It was just something that saved the sport from running into big problems with local markets on top of, you know, the national ratings as they were declining. The only thing that can hurt baseball to me is if there is a television bubble with the regional sports networks and the contracts that they sign with the teams. And they say, sorry, you know, we're going to have to default because we can't pay you the hundreds of millions of dollars or the $1 billion deal that I've signed with Team X in the big market. We just can't afford to do that. We don't have the money to do that. Outside of that, the sport's going to be just fine.
It's a regionalized sport, though, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
One of the great things about Aaron Judge is that if you can think about it, people haven't watched him yet, Rob Gronkowski is a beast.
And this guy's bigger.
This guy is taller and heavier. He's a bigger person than Rob Gronkowski, and he's hitting the ball like you think somebody that big should hit the ball. He hits it 450 in his sleep. He hit one 496 feet this past weekend.
And yet, most of his home runs are line drives to the opposite field. He is tops in Major League Baseball in opposite field home runs. His average home run, despite being a Herculean individual, is 415 feet because he hits them on a rope. Now, if he turns on one and uppercuts one and, you know, turns his hips,
with a home run cut.
Right. Yeah. Oh, well, yes, a man 6'7", 280 can absolutely hit the ball a country mile, and he is something to behold because you don't see a lot of 6'7" hitters have the kind of success that he's currently having. You know, it's not like we didn't know who Aaron Judge was. Aaron Judge came up last year. Aaron Judge is a strikeout machine. And when he came up last year, that's what he did. He struck out a lot. And the thought was, well, okay, that's what he's going to be, but he's going to hit us 40 to 50 home runs and hit 240, and we'll live with that. That's fine. The stunning factor up to this point, as we get closer and closer to the All-Star break, is that he could lead the Triple Crown, that he could have the best average in baseball. That's stunning. Nobody saw that coming. And it would really, really be very, very rare. I mean, I think the freakish and the outlier here is that a 6'7" guy could have the compact swing that would lead the majors in batting average. That's wow. You just don't see that.
That's a lot of strike zone to cover too.
Oh, it's crazy.
6'7". Yes.
Yeah. So he's a great story. But for as long as ESPN or anybody else, for that matter, is going to sit around and talk about how can baseball get back to being the sport that could lead a show or be the leading aspect of SportsCenter, which it now will be, by the way, because this is baseball's time to shine. There's nothing else going on. Hockey is over. The NBA is over. And NFL really hasn't started in earnest in any way. Baseball will lead the daily news on SportsCenter, if you will. But it's a very finite period of time where that works for baseball anymore. But that ship has sailed ages ago. I don't know why that's brought up all the time, as if everybody has this need to save baseball. The financials say that baseball is not in need of saving. When you hear the conversation around Bryce Harper and how he's going to be the first $500 million guy in baseball, well, how could baseball need saving? There are franchises that are going to be willing to pay him $500 million.
I think people are confusing the fact that the sport, that Major League Baseball does have issues that it needs to attend to, with an overriding truth that baseball is, failing as a sport. There's a difference. Like the NFL has a problem with something every year, whether it's officiating, the replay systems, concussions. I mean, you name it. They've had issues over the years. Player arrests not that long ago. And Goodell was brought in as this, no-nonsense commissioner.
Domestic violence issues that they were not addressing in a serious manner, and yes.
But even in the course of play, you have issues. They changed the extra points, and is that going to work? People are talking about the overuse of going to the bullpen. And, last week I was listening to a Mets-Braves game on the radio, and the Braves manager goes, I think, 3 times in 1/2 inning, to the bullpen. And this is just matchup baseball. It wasn't necessarily because the guy was failing. He brought one guy out because he was failing. Then he goes matchup, matchup, matchup. And, the announcers are saying, okay, now you want to talk about a problem in the game? Here it is. Because we've cruised through
specialization.
The first 5 innings they've taken an hour and 25 minutes. And now we're here, 40 minutes later, and we're only an inning later in the game. You want to talk about something? Let's talk about that, because it kills the momentum of the game. You don't have to play your games in 2 hours and 15 minutes.
No.
But
there has to be something happening in the game, and it can't be a guy walking to the mound incessantly and another guy jogging out of a bullpen, pitching to one batter, and then doing that again.
It's going to happen in college baseball, where games slow down because the bats are what they are, and college pitchers aren't that great. That's the biggest drop-off.
They more than accommodate them with a strike zone the size of Earth.
It depends, yeah. Sometimes it's in orbit like Earth. It's continually moving and spinning. But you look at the nature of a Major League Baseball game as it gets to the later innings, sometimes it's worse than the final 2 minutes of an NBA basketball game with all the timeouts. It's like we get to the 6th inning and there's flow to this and there's momentum exists.
I agree. And that's why guys like John Smoltz have talked about doing something different. And I agree with him, and I agree with those who say that, the idea of, look, okay, we're not going to limit the amount of times that, a catcher can go out and talk to a pitcher about signs and all of that. You gotta enforce some sort of rule that will allow for pitchers to come in and face more than one hitter, or mandate that they have to face more than one hitter if you're making these moves. It could still involve the element of the strategy that we like, such as I've got a specialty left-hander that I can use to get their best left-handed hitter out late in the game when it's on the line. But now what you would have to do is find that guy who is that, but is capable of getting righties out too, because he's going to have to face 2 other guys besides the lefty that's a stud.
Yes, the thing and you know what, Brian Kenny just did a little ditty on this. It appeared on MLB Network's Twitter feed. And it's something I'm talking about it for a while now. I think it's the next thing in baseball. It's the 3 or 4 inning reliever.
True out. Oh, yeah.
It's that guy. It's this hybrid role, because the problem is that starting pitchers are going fewer and fewer innings.
Yep.
They're accounting for fewer outs in the ball game than they ever have. And now it's getting into the 5th inning and they can get you through 5 2/3. You're happy? I mean, that's ridiculous. And then you play matchup baseball for that many outs the rest of the way.
That's rewarding as a fan.
No, because then, again, all of a sudden you're spending a 45 minutes to account for 7 or 8 outs, and it's 10:30 at night. You're in the top half of the 8th inning.
But let's not confuse, Tom, those questions about within the game, ways to improve, using rules and different strategies, the action, with baseball's place in sport, and whether or not it's financially viable, or the markets are, if it's a regional sport or a national talking point, because that's what ESPN and other talking heads do all the time. The talk turns to how do we save baseball every year as soon as the NBA ends. And I always say there's nothing to save. Baseball's fine. Go look at the financials. They're fine. No teams are going under. They're not talking about contraction. They're not, they don't have that problem. They're never, well, I shouldn't say never, who knows, things can change, but it's not likely in my lifetime anyhow that baseball is again going to be atop the sports mountain, but it doesn't have to be successful, and it doesn't need saving.
No, again, don't confuse the issue that is specific to the sport with an issue that is pervasive and is killing the sport. We talk about how the rules in the NFL and the rules in college football favor the offense so heavily that at times it feels like you're watching arena football. Or we talk about the strike zone of being able to hit a quarterback, or what is really a defenseless receiver.
Right.
And you're going to throw somebody out in a college football game because the receiver ducked his head and you went helmet
to
helmet?
That affects the integrity of the game, and that's, to me, worth the larger debate about where is football going. If there's a concern for a sport, And looking out 10 to 15 years from now, who's at greater risk? I mean, listen, I understand football's popularity is such that it's not going anywhere anytime soon because billionaires don't give up their billion-dollar toys very easily. But football's got a problem, period. It's a perception. There is a reality to it as well, and there are the rules changes that affect the integrity of the game. You don't see those. These aren't what we're questioning in baseball.
Well, I think people
we're questioning pace of play. That's not the same as the integrity of the game.
I think that that people are questioning the integrity of the game, but they're not talking about the health and viability of the sport. They're saying, "What are we watching? We're watching a manager, march out to the mound to go get a pitcher 4 and 5 times a night now, if the game counts for enough."
It's a nuisance. It's a problem in that it can be solved, and we need to discuss ways to solve it. But I don't think it affects the integrity of the game. It affects the enjoyability of the game as a fan, as a viewer of the game. But football is fundamentally altered when you're kicking people out of the game for tackling. Now you're deciding winners and losers based on an official's discretion with a rather nebulous sort of gray area. I mean, that's the integrity of the game that's affected, and I think football has a problem with that. I don't think, again, I've said this, and I don't know how many people agree with me on this, but I can't think of a time. I go back to when I played and anybody else who ever played ball. I can't think of a time that I ever tackled somebody and intended to target them. And I can't remember a time where I was tackled and I felt like the defender was attempting to target me, using today's jargon, right? I mean, we didn't even call it that back then. They would talk about using the crown of your helmet. I don't remember anybody who ever did that. And did it happen? Sure. Just because I don't remember it doesn't mean it didn't happen. But it happens far less than people think it does. Guys are reacting in real time. It's a split second. We talk about the level of athleticism. When guys make tackles, they're not intending to target. And you'll hear these rules put in place, obviously, to try to get guys to stop launching. Okay, I got that. But people aren't walking out onto the football field targeting people. They're just not doing it. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, and that's college football you're talking about mostly, because that's the one that carries, an ejection and a suspension for the first half of the next game.
Always by accident. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be penalized, but I think it's important to understand intent.
Yes, and I think the best example is the most recent one in Florida State fans' minds, which is the Trey Marshall play in the Orange Bowl.
Which is absurd.
That's a tackle.
It's just a damn tackle. Most of these are just tackles. I say it when it happens against us as well. When they kick guys out that hit a Florida State player, almost every time when I watch that replay, I go, I don't think he was trying to. I mean, we have seen instances where people have been blatant in their efforts to harm, to launch, to use the helmet as a weapon. That happens, and every now and then you see it, and you know it. You know it the second you see it.
Well, even if it's reckless, too. If it's just reckless and unsafe play, I mean, that soccer penalizes for that. If it's an unsafe tackle or challenge, then they'll draw a yellow or a red, be what it is, if you already have a yellow in your back pocket.
I think launching's the key there. To me, it's just about launching.
Well, yeah, I think it's about reckless play. If the Trey Marshall play, he's low to the ground, he's sizing up his waist. There is no recklessness in the form.
No, it's a tackle.
The technique,
it's an embarrassing call.
He's doing what he should be doing.
It happens all the time, and this happens in college football. Every year we see 100 instances. If you just watch around college football, if you spend a Saturday afternoon and you watch 10 games, you just flip it all around, maybe you're a degenerate gambler like me and you're watching all these games, you will see at least 2 to 3 egregious calls centered around this idea of getting targeting out of the game that I don't really believe even exists.
It goes back to your call with Michael Kelly years and years ago after the Nigel Bradham hit.
I said, what should he have done?
That is the fundamental question that an official should ask themselves when a play like this is under review. What could have or should have this player done differently? Because then if you put it in those terms, then you're taking the position of the player who's delivering the hit. And what could he have done differently? If a receiver catches the ball, ducks down low, and it's
Michael
a helmet to
didn't
helmet.
have an answer. It was silence, if you recall, and that was the end of that, right?
Nigel delivered a perfect hit.
Yes, and everything about the call was absurd. And now we are really, you move forward from that instance, you do realize that anytime somebody gets blown up, that is to say, gets crushed on a hit because they were put in a terrible position by their quarterback and hung out to dry, it's going to get flagged. No matter what. If it just looks violent, it's drawing a flag every time.
It would have taken 20 minutes to get the call right, but in that game, it would have been 2nd and 10 or whatever. That would have been actually would have been an interception if they reviewed that play because I think it was McDaniel was the one that came down. Maybe it was Ant McLeod.
It was
came
McDaniel.
Came down with a pick off the deflection on that play.
Incredible play, by the way.
It was. He got his hands low. I mean, I remember seeing it from field view, and yes,
well, we
it
were
would've
standing
been
next to each other.
Our ball and.
By the way, Jackson, this is a good tweet, and we got to go to break here, but at Jay Cameron Show, don't know, Jeff, Bountygate was exactly people compensated to target and injure opposing players, #a-hole. Sure, I didn't say it never happens, and there are rogue elements in the game of football, and they've existed for a long time, and, hey, listen, you had Buddy back in the day with Philadelphia doing that, and you've had guys, pay players to take guys out. In that case, they were trying to knock out Brett Favre, and they were hitting late. The targeting, I'd go back and look at all the times Bret Hart, I'm thinking of wrestling. Brett Favre got drilled in that game. I wonder how many of them would be considered targeting.
Giving you the sharpshooter.
I wonder how many of them would be. Seriously, they might have been late. They might have been malicious. Targeting. In the college, I think that's an outlier, Jackson, would be my answer. It does exist. It has happened. You're right. There are samples. We can look around and find it. But in a given year, how many times does this defensive unit take the field with the intent to target and injure opposing players? Almost never.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Card poker and pie gow in our card room. Satisfy big appetites at Stables, featuring hot and cold sandwiches, salads, and weekend specials. There's always something exciting going on at Creek Entertainment Gretna, I-10 exit 174, Gretna, Florida.
Look at that mouth. That poor, parched mouth. So dry. What'd you eat for lunch? Chalk dust? Did your mouth cannonball into a barrel of mothballs? You're being awfully quiet. Is that because your mouth feels like the business end of a Dremel saw? Is it because your mouth just wrote a haiku and all 17 syllables were dry heaves? You're so parched. You know it. I know it. The entire radio knows it. Just admit it. You want a Mountain Dew. Your mouth feels like it just inhaled the insides of a punching bag, and the only remedy is that neon green potion. Right now, your mouth could be tongue bathing in the refreshing citrus kick of Mountain Dew. Instead, it feels like you've been motorboating King Tut's sarcophagus. Show some mercy. Crack open an ice-cold Mountain Dew. You know your mouth wants you to. Do the Dew.
Don't miss Dew Days tomorrow at Country Corner Shell, located on the corner of Appalachian Parkway and Capitol Circle Southeast, next to Dairy Queen. Great prices on all Dew products from noon to 6 only. All 12-packs are just $1.99, and all Kickstart singles for only 59 cents. Thursday only from noon to 6 at Country Corner Shell.
Hi, Chris Kraft for Kraft Nissan. How do I convey to you just how good the incentives and discounts are on America's fastest growing car company, Nissan? Seriously, please shop Kraft Nissan before you buy. No one has the incentives and low prices we have. Not Toyota, Chevy, Ford, Honda, or Hyundai. $5,800 in savings on Altima SR. Brand new automatic Frontier pickup starting at just $21,800. 0% interest for 72 months on our most popular models. Rebates up to $10,000 and no payments until football season. I'm telling you, in the over 30 years I've been in the car business, I've never seen such incentives and low prices. I've got pages and pages of special interest rates, rebates, and bonus cash. Kraft Nissan even has a factory rebate for any credit score under 625 to help you with your down payment. Here's the deal. Nissan is America's fastest growing car company, and they want to be number one, and they're buying market share. So please, before you buy, check out Kraft Nissan's exciting lineup of new vehicles. That's all I ask. Stop by Kraft Nissan and look. Kraft Nissan on Mahan Drive between Academy Sports and Costco. Price includes dealer preparation charge.
Did you know that June is National Rose Month, National Camping Month, National Great Outdoors Month, and at TNT Supercenter in Thomasville, June is Make Your Own Golf Cart and Get It Delivered Free Month. This month at TNT Supercenter, with any golf cart purchase of at least $2,500, they will deliver your cart for free within a 50-mile radius of the store, and you'll also get $500 worth of free Mad Jacks accessories. Choose from hundreds of items in the Mad Jacks catalog, including rear seat kits, light kits, lift kits, wheels, tires, you name it, Mad Jacks has it. New carts, pre-owned carts, club cars, Yamaha, and the very cool Star EV carts. If you like the sound of that, you will love the sound of a 4-year warranty on loaded brand new carts, starting at just $49.99. Trade-ins are welcome, and TNT Supercenter is offering financing with 0 down, and when you buy a club car, 0% with approved credit, plus free delivery within a 50-mile radius. TNT Supercenter, US 19 South, next to Dairy Queen in Thomasville, and online at TNTSupercenter.com.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
You would think, knowing that I was up against it, I would have pulled up the probables during the break, Tom, but that's simply not true. I didn't do that.
I can tell you that Matt Harvey is pitching for the Mets tonight, if I have that right.
And you must be thrilled.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, listen, who got drafted today while I pull up the starters?
Quincy
Neaporte got drafted, right?
Yes, and so did Kobe Johnson. He got drafted as well. I could pull up the exact rounds, but Quincy got drafted by the Phillies, if I have that right. Alec Bird got drafted. Drew Carlton got drafted. FSU baseball is just littering things.
I got guys. We no longer have to celebrate the draft picks, although congratulations to each one of those young men.
Rapid fire, Quincy Neaporte, 26th round, Phillies, Kobe Johnson, 29th round, Angels, Carlton, 32nd round, Tigers, and 33rd round, Alec Bird, Rockies.
Well done. Red Sox, Phillies, Brian Johnson, Jeremy Hellickson, Rockies, Pirates, Herman Marquez, and Chad Kuhl. We've got Rays, Jays, Odorizzi, Francisco Liriano, D-backs, Detroit, Tuan Walker, and Jordan Zimmerman. Cubs, Mets, Mike Montgomery and Matt Harvey. Dodgers, Indians, Brandon McCarthy, Corey Kluber. Orioles and White Sox, Dylan Bundy, Miguel Gonzalez. Mariners, Twins, Gaviglio, Sam Gaviglio, something like that. Irvin Santana's pitching for the Twins. Rangers, Strohs, Cashner, and Francis Martes. And Brewers, Cardinals, Garza and Leake, followed up by Yankees, Angels, Michael Pineda, Matt Schumacher. And that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump.
Makes me feel fine, blowing under the jasmine in my mind.
Good job, Cameron. You got it. Keep the tape rolling. Hey, so who's on the front row tonight? That's coming up here in mere moments.
The ever-consistent Tim Linnefelt will be on the front row.
That.
And Florida State pitching coach Mike Bell will join the front row ahead of the College World Series.
Well, that's good stuff, because what a turnaround. What a turnaround of events for, change of events for that pitching staff late, huh? That ended up being the best, and the most exciting news was that we didn't have just one guy to rely on, but all of a sudden you feel real good about 4 or 5 guys. I like Mike Bell a lot, and he's certainly proven over the years at his time at Oklahoma and now here that he can coach. So we were all looking at him kind of, what's going on, Mike? What's going on with these guys? Good to see his guys get it together.
Yeah, well, they have the stuff, and you're like, all right, well, Sands has stuff, and Parrish, while not, a 95-mile-an-hour heater, I mean, the dude does have some nasty braking stuff. So, can we see that? Can they locate them? What's going on mechanically? And whatever they did, and it's worked.
In just the right moments, and now we made it through another day, Tom. We made it one more day closer to Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Florida State LSU. You know what'll be crazy? And, all we're left to do here is speculate. But if they win that game against a team as hot as LSU, how nervous are you going to get? I mean, it just ratchets everything up. It intensifies things greatly.
Well, if they do, that's a prime time start. That's 7 p.m. or
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Monday?
Oh,
no, I'm talking
the Monday start. Yeah,
I think it might be local 7
well,
p.m.
back-to-back prime time.
But prime time Monday night for sure if you win.
Good work out of you, sir. Good work, Matthew. Thanks to those that called and or listen. And we do appreciate it. Hey, listen, I think tomorrow's show, knock on wood, we'll get this confirmed tonight, but Jameis Winston will join us. That sounds like a plan to me. Take care, everybody. Front row up next.